This is Wu Lingen, a chubby otaku who just can't say no, which is why he's always getting picked on at school. Tired of all the nonsense, he decided to focus on his studies to see if he could change his life in the future. His biggest dream was that in adulthood, people would be judged by their skills and not just their looks. But it didn't take long for him to discover that, besides being a chubby otaku, he was also a terrible student with awful grades. After graduating, the only job he could land was as a human punching bag at a gym. Basically, the ad was looking for someone over 90 kilograms who didn't need a diploma. In the end, he found himself in the same cycle, except now the ones hitting him were professional fighters. Crying his eyes out, the young man wonders why everyone always treats him so badly. Suddenly, while he was zoning out, a big, strong hand grabbed his shoulder. It was his supervisor, Mei Rensing, asking for a little help with the gym's monthly report. Wu tries to argue that he's just a sparring partner, but he already knows he won't be able to turn down the task. Seeing his hesitation, the supervisor gets annoyed, flexes his muscles, and asks in a very threatening way what he just said. Scared, the chubby guy immediately agrees to do the report, and his boss tells him to hurry up. Just when he thought the nightmare was over, the supervisor calls his name, and Wu looks back, already exhausted. At that moment, all the other buff guys from the gym show up, asking him to do their reports too. With a dark look in his eyes, it seemed like the protagonist was finally going to snap and tell everyone to take a hike. But he just gives a tired smile and agrees to do everyone's work, proving he really doesn't know how to say no. It's midnight now, and the street is pitch black, with the only light coming from a single, lonely street light. Working on his computer, he cries and wonders why he didn't refuse, since he wouldn't earn an extra cent for it. All of a sudden, the guy feels an incredible pain in his chest, like his heart was about to explode at any moment. He remembers the doctor warning him that if he didn't lose weight, he would one day just drop unexpectedly. Feeling like his time was up, the chubby guy tries to grab his phone to call for an ambulance. But to make matters worse, a message pops up saying his service was cut off due to non-payment. With no hope left, he realizes he's really going to pass on right there, alone in that dark room. However, in a last-ditch effort, he decides he needs to change and that he won't go out as a simple otaku. So he clicks to delete his secret study materials folder from his computer. Satisfied with his final act of dignity, he smiles and rests his head on the desk, feeling like he can finally go in peace. His last thought is a wish that, in his next life, he won't be an otaku anymore. But instead of delete, the mouse clicks on Send to All, and a new message appears on the screen. Elsewhere, his supervisor is surprised that Xiao Wu's report was finished so quickly. Curious, he opens the folder he received to see what the kid had sent him. Suddenly, a very suspicious video starts playing in the middle of the meeting, and everyone panics. The protagonist's eyes widen in pure shock at the colossal blunder he just made. Inexplicably, he now sees himself as a baby and wonders if he really did restart his life. 20,000 years later, the story takes us to the continent of Kyushu in a place called Dongzhou. A beautiful fox girl hugs a young man from behind and affectionately calls him Brother Lingen. Her name is Tu Shan Xiaoyu, and she asks why he's still on the mountain when they had promised to explore the world. The man who has trained for 20,000 years simply lifts the entire mountain with just one arm. He introduces himself as Wu Lingen, an ordinary person with just a little extra strength, and says he would cause trouble. The girl is shocked and screams, wondering how on earth an ordinary person could lift an entire mountain. He confirms that he was indeed reincarnated and spent the last 20,000 years training on that very mountain. He then explains that he came into the world as the young master of a demonic sect that went bankrupt. To avoid being hunted, he hid in the mountains and tells the girl that his training is finally over. The young man thanks the little fox for her company, saying that without her, he would have gone crazy from boredom. Because of the lessons from his past life, he became super disciplined and trained every single day for 20,000 years. However, after training for so long, he realized something very important about himself. Suddenly, a giant snake appears in front of them and stares at them with red eyes, full of hunger. He realized he was a Wu Lingen, in other words, someone with no spiritual root for cultivation. The snake then lunges to attack them, and he says that besides his highly trained physique, he has nothing else. Even so, he isn't fazed and prepares to face the creature with just his fists. With a single punch, he hits the monster square on and sends it flying with incredible force. The impact is so powerful that the snake's body smashes through an entire rock wall upon impact. Wu Lingen himself is surprised by the result, showing that he has no idea of his own strength. With a smile, he suggests to the girl that they have snake meat for dinner tonight. The girl eagerly agrees, and the two of them get ready to enjoy the unexpected meal. Xiao Yu thinks that, as expected, her brother Lingen took down a flood dragon with a single punch. As he prepares the meat, an angry voice shouts, calling the young man a bold thief. A man floating on a sword accuses the pair of stealing the dragon he was just about to defeat. He introduces himself as Xiao Chunhuo and accuses them of being from the demonic sect because of this shameful act. The protagonist just looks at the guy with a bored expression, not caring at all about the accusations. In a panic, the young man denies everything and wonders how the man discovered the truth about them. Right after, he throws himself on the ground and apologizes, saying it wasn't his intention to take the creature. The instructor glares at them with contempt and identifies them as a fox demon and a human with no power. Realizing that talking would be pointless, the man decides it's time to stop wasting time on them. Without hesitation, he charges forward with his sword, using a powerful technique to finish the duo off at once. To the instructor's surprise, the protagonist simply catches the flying sword with his bare hands. The man falls to the ground in complete shock and points at the young man, unable to believe what just happened. With wide eyes, he can't understand how an ordinary boy managed to catch his flying sword. Wu Lingen apologizes for taking his weapon, but says he had no choice since the man was about to take him out. Furious at his audacity, the instructor summons dozens of flying swords and sends them after them. The young master calmly faces the shower of blades and prepares for the attack coming his way. Using incredible speed, he moves across the battlefield and manages to catch all the swords in mid-air. He then appears holding the weapons and says he caught them on instinct, while Xiaoyu looks at him with an adoring gaze. The instructor is frozen in shock and stares at the young man with an expression of pure disbelief. Seeing he didn't stand a chance, the man turns and runs desperately into the forest. A moment later, he returns with a sheepish grin and says it was all just a big misunderstanding. He politely asks the young master to return his swords and promises to leave as soon as he gets them. However, as the young man prepares to toss the weapons, the instructor readies a cowardly attack from behind. With a wicked smile on his face, he fires a powerful blast of fire toward the protagonist. The attack tears through the forest, destroying everything in its path with impressive force. Wu Lingen agrees to return the weapons and throws them back to the instructor as promised. With his body completely scorched, the man can't believe his attack didn't work on him. The fire blast simply dissipated around the young man's body without leaving a single scratch. Not caring about the man, Wu calls the girl and says they need to go back and cook. Before they leave, the fox approaches the instructor and calls him over for a serious talk. With a scary look, she threatens him and says she doesn't want to hear a word about what happened there. Terrified, the man repeatedly agrees with the girl while trembling in fear, sweat dripping down his face. Wu calls for Xiaoyu to leave, and she runs to catch up with him with a smile and hearts floating in the air. The instructor watches the pair walk away, with him carrying the giant snake's body with a single hand. Kneeling on the ground, he wonders who those mysterious people are and where they came from. Then, with a wicked smile, he thinks that they can be happy for now, but it won't last long. He promises to tell the old ancestor of the academy everything, and make sure those cultivators pay for what they did. Meanwhile, the girl comments that he defeated cultivators and still insists on saying he's an ordinary person. The young man replies that he would be no match for a real cultivator, and that the man was just messing with them. He says that because he's an ordinary person with no spiritual roots, he needs to train his body even more. Then, as he walks, he wraps the snake's tail around his body, as if it were just another exercise. Xiaoyu thinks that even though he's so naive, he's very cute when he acts in this clumsy way. The scene changes to a mountainous landscape, showing the path the couple is taking. They arrive at a dark cave, and Wu Lingen announces that he's coming in, carrying the food. At the cave entrance, a sign already warned of the demonic presence and the 10 unforgivable crimes. Inside the cave, an imposing man shouts, asking who dares to enter the sect's territory. With an innocent smile, the protagonist replies that he brought snake meat for their dinner. The man's expression completely changes, and he says that little Lingen has finally come to visit them. Behind the bars, everyone gets excited and asks him to pass the meat as they are starving. The young man explains that they may not look like good people, but they are uncles who care a lot about him. Suddenly, one of the men who seems to be the leader gets angry and complains about something important. He is Wu Di Lingen's father, and he scolds his son for not visiting him in the last 3 hours. The young man explains that he was delayed by hunting and cooking, and comments that his father loves to throw tantrums. The man asks if the girl convinced him to go down the mountain again, and his son denies it. Furious, the father yells that he absolutely cannot leave the mountain, as it's too dangerous out there. Wu Lingen and Xiaoyu are surprised by the father's the top reaction as he continues to shout at them. The man says that even after being sealed for 20,000 years, he still remembers the cunning of the people of the righteous path. He continues his lecture and asks if his son wants him, an old man, to have to bury his own child. The young master lowers his head and apologizes to his father, but it seems he has something more to say. Angrily, he shouts that he's tired of hearing the same things for the past 20,000 years. The father is shocked by his son's boldness and stares at him speechless, not knowing what to say. The young man says he doesn't want to be trapped in that forest anymore, even if he gets hunted, hurt, or worse. The other men say he's naive and that leaving now would be a final mistake, as he's still too weak. The girl interrupts the argument and reveals that they just encountered a cultivator from the righteous path. She says the man was at the nascent soul stage, but Lingen defeated him with a single punch. The father wonders how a righteous cultivator showed up there, and if his son has really gotten that strong. Even so, he reminds the young man that he is still an ordinary person without any spiritual root. He questions how the young man will face stronger cultivators, even if he has the strength of one of them. The man tells him not to think he's invincible just because he defeated 1 or 2 cultivators. The protagonist shouts that he's not interested in being invincible, and that he has a much bigger goal. He explains that only by reaching the tribulation stage can he break the seal and rescue all of them. Furious, the father asks the other men if they were the ones who told his son this, and they all deny it at once. The young man remembers how his father always protected him, even while being sealed for 20,000 years. With determination, he says that now that he's grown up, it's his turn to protect his father and his entire family. The girl interrupts the conversation and says they seem to have forgotten something very important. She explains that since Lingen has no demonic aura, people won't discover his true identity. The father is still worried and says that if he releases any demonic aura during a breakthrough, it will be the end for him. The young man has already made up his mind and tells his father not to blame him as he turns to leave the cave. The man watches him go with a sad but resigned expression, accepting his son's decision. Just as he was leaving, his father yells for him to stop and throws an object in his direction. The young man catches the object in the air and is confused, not understanding what his father just threw at him. The object is a small amulet with his name written on it and a symbol he doesn't recognize. The father reveals that it is the pass for the Xuanxin Academy's qualification exam. He says that since his son insists on going down the mountain, that could be his first stop. The Xuanxin Academy is the best cultivator academy, and everyone graduates at the Golden Core stage. The girl questions if it wouldn't be more dangerous to go there, but the father explains it's the safest place. Besides, the academy has countless cultivation paths, and it would be the ideal place for his son to find his way. The young master takes the snake meat to cook as he prepares for his new journey. With a giant backpack on, he says his goodbyes and shouts that he's heading to Xuanxin Academy. The girl asks how his father got that rare pass even while being trapped, but he refuses to answer. The man says he can no longer protect his son and needs to find a way to keep him safe. Sending him to the academy is the best option he could find to ensure the young man's survival. The father then reveals that there is a secret about his son's body that he needs to share with her. He asks the almost Emperor level 9 tailed fox to protect the young man at all costs. The girl understands the importance of the mission but raises a very important practical question. With a bored look, she asks who's going to bring them food when the two of them leave. All the men become desperate at the question and stare at the girl with wide eyes. The father shouts for them to eat quickly, as this will be the last good meal to have for a long time. The fox says goodbye to the old man and prepares to leave, but he calls her back for one last warning. Annoyed, she asks what he wants and warns him that she won't be bringing food for anyone there anymore. The man warns her that the world is on the verge of collapse, and that there isn't much time left for them. He says that the hidden power within Lingen needs to awaken soon, because their time is running out. The scene cuts to the entrance of Xuanxin Academy, an imposing place full of young aspiring cultivators. The guards shout at the candidates, telling them to maintain order and not to cut in line under any circumstances. All the young people prepare for the exam with their tokens in hand, eagerly awaiting the start of the test. Carrying his giant luggage, the protagonist observes the place and hopes not to draw too much attention. An instructor explains that everyone must insert their tokens into the mouth of the stone lion at the entrance. The statue will detect the authenticity of the passes and whether there are any demonic spies among them. The instructor calls the first person in line and tells them to hurry up and start the verification process. The young man approaches the lion and inserts his token into the statue's mouth carefully and with a bit of nervousness. A blue light shines from the statue, indicating that the pass is authentic and the candidate is clear. The instructor lets him enter, and the young man thanks him, relieved to have passed the first test. Wu Lingen gets extremely nervous and wonders if the token his father gave him is a fake. He tries to calm down, thinking that since he doesn't practice demonic cultivation, he shouldn't be detected. Suddenly, a scream of pain echoes through the area, and everyone turns to see what happened in the line. A demonic cultivator was discovered by the statue, which clamped down on his hand and wouldn't let go. One of the candidates explains that the lion is made of a special material that doesn't let go when it detects something suspicious. The man begs for his life, saying he only forged the token and that he's not a demonic cultivator. The instructor calls the next person and points to the protagonist, saying his turn has finally come. He says the guy with the big backpack seems to be the most suspicious of all and tells him to insert his token. Trembling with fear, the young man approaches the stone lion and prepares for the test that could define his future. All of a sudden, the ground starts to shake violently, and the other candidates wonder if it's an earthquake. The statue begins to bite down on the protagonist's arm, who feels an unbearable pain in the area. However, to everyone's surprise, the token is accepted, and the instructor says everything is fine. Relieved, the young man sighs and celebrates having managed to pass without being discovered by the statue. But the stone lion's eyes turn red, and it seems to be very angry with the young man. The entire statue starts to glow red, and the protagonist doesn't understand what's happening. With incredible force, the statue starts to crack and bites down on his arm with even more strength. Suddenly, the lion's head flies off and hits the young master's other arm, leaving him completely shocked. Without even trying, the young man ends up breaking the entire statue into pieces in front of everyone. The instructor is left speechless at the scene, while the protagonist stares at the destruction he caused. Embarrassed, he crouches down and starts picking up the pieces, apologizing for the accident. The instructor furiously yells that he's also a demonic cultivator and orders him to be seized at once. The guards surround him and he asks why he's being detained if his pass was approved. The man explains that the lion automatically attacks when it senses any kind of demonic energy nearby. The young man panics and thinks he was contaminated by his family's aura from living with them for so long. Just as he was about to be taken away, the fox girl appears and shouts for everyone to stop immediately. She says they're being careless, and everyone is captivated by her stunning beauty. The instructor asks why a member of the monster clan is meddling in the academy's affairs. Ignoring the question, she approaches the young man and holds his arm protectively. She declares herself Brother Lingon's guardian and asks why she shouldn't be involved in this. The other candidates are surprised and comment that he must have a very important family background. The fox tells the man to take a closer look at the origin of the admission pass he's holding. The instructor looks at the ground and recognizes the token of the legendary number 1 sect in the world. She confirms that it's from the sect that was destroyed 20,000 years ago, and that Lingjin is the only living successor. One of the candidates questions how the most powerful sect in the world was destroyed by a demonic cult. Another young man explains that the sect's name was literally the number 1 sect in the world. The fox girl then says it's understandable that the pass is contaminated with demonic energy. The instructor thinks the boy inherited the legacy by accident and that he needs to handle the situation very carefully. He lets the couple go but warns them not to do anything suspicious, and the protagonist assures him they'll behave. The fox pulls the young man inside the academy, and they finally begin their new journey. She tells him not to be so tense, but the young man is still very nervous about the whole situation. She advises him to act as he always does, and that way no one will suspect his true identity. They enter the academy gates and find themselves in a huge courtyard full of other students. From a tower, a man observes the new students with a serious and imposing expression. He is Mei Yanli, one of the academy's instructors, and he seems to be evaluating the newcomers who have arrived. Another instructor approaches and asks how this year's new students are doing. Mei Yanli replies that they're not bad, and that there are some quite promising students among them. He points to Bai Di from Eugene Peak and T. Shankao from the Hehuan sect as good examples. The young master of the Hehuan sect approaches Bai Di and invites her for some dual cultivation. Angrily, the girl tells him to get lost and rejects him without even looking at his face. The others comment that she's the super genius who reached the foundation stage at 11 years old. Bai Di thinks her father was right and that none of the newcomers there are worthy of her attention. Mei Yanli agrees that the quality of the new students isn't bad, but he feels that something is off. Suddenly, he sees the protagonist tossing gigantic weights into the air and wonders what on earth that is. The other instructor laughs and says he must have just passed the Q refining stage. Mei Yanli replies that with such a flashy character, he probably won't pass the first test. He then jumps from the tower and flies toward the new students to begin the admission exam. The candidates are impressed by the instructor's ability to fly as if it were nothing. He introduces himself as the one in charge of evaluating the new students and explains the next step. Only those who pass all the tests will be eligible to become disciples of the academy. The protagonist feels like he's seen that instructor somewhere before but can't remember where. The man yells at the young man, asking why he's staring at him in that strange way. Embarrassed, he tries to explain himself but ends up saying something that catches the instructor's attention. He points to a shiny wire attached to the man's back and says it's a bit reflective. Everyone looks up and sees that the instructor is hanging by a wire, as if he were a puppet. Suddenly, the wire snaps, and the man falls to the ground in front of all the shocked students. He approaches the young man and says he's looking forward to seeing his results in the upcoming test. The wire then pulls him back into the air, and the instructor becomes furious with the embarrassing situation. He yells at his assistant for not stopping in the right place, and threatens him with a deadly glare. The white-haired girl wonders how an academy instructor can't even fly properly. The other instructor thinks the young man is in trouble for having offended such a petty man. Suddenly, the instructor rips his shirt off and shows off his muscular physique to all the students. He says that was just to lighten the mood, and that now he'll start the first round of the test. The young master wonders if the instructor is crazy, and if he needs to rip his shirt to start the test. One of the students recognizes the instructor's aura and muscles, and is shocked by the discovery. He reveals that it's the legendary Sacred Punching Bag Bodhi, an extremely rare ability. This ability absorbs enemy attacks and converts the energy for the user's own use. In other words, he's practically immune to attacks from people of the same level or lower. The protagonist is horrified at the thought that you have to enjoy getting hit to become strong. The instructor explains that each of them will punch him, and he will judge their potential. He glares at the young man and says that since the test is under his control, he will ensure he fails. The man points to the young master and says he will be the first to participate in the test. The protagonist approaches and tells the instructor to get ready because he's very strong. The man laughs and says that not even a nascent soul cultivator could hurt him. He continues to mock the young man and says there's no way a rookie like him could injure him. But before he could finish his sentence, the protagonist hits him with a devastating punch. The impact is so strong that the instructor flies far away and destroys part of the academy with his body. All the other candidates are shocked and stare at the scene with their eyes wide open. The other instructor is also speechless upon seeing the destruction caused by the young man's punch. The young master looks through the hole in the wall and sees the mess he just caused. With a pale face and breaking into a cold sweat, he realizes he overdid it with the force and that it's all over for him now. He finds the instructor lying in the rubble, completely knocked out and defeated. The man is unconscious and foaming at the mouth, showing the force of the blow he received. Without caring about the destruction, the protagonist turns around and asks if this means he passed. The other students are terrified by the scene and back away from the young man, afraid of his strength. The fox jumps from rooftop to rooftop to get closer and observe the chaos up close. With a proud smile, she thinks it was expected that her brother would attract attention right from the start. The other candidates wonder how the instructor was defeated if he was supposedly immune to attacks. The white-haired girl realizes she's not the only one hiding her true strength there. The colorful instructor approaches his fallen colleague and seems impressed by what happened. He says the power of the young man's punch was almost at the final level of the nascent soul stage. Suddenly, the fallen man starts to get up, and his eyes open with renewed fury. He quickly gets to his feet and glares at the protagonist with a look of pure anger and determination. Running towards the young man, he grabs him and starts yelling at him for attacking him. He complains that the young man attacked him when he wasn't ready and, on top of that, hit his face instead of his stomach. The chubby guy realizes the instructor wasn't prepared, and that's why he couldn't withstand the punch. The man says the previous test doesn't count and that he will disqualify him if he uses tricks again. He then activates his special ability, the immovable sacred punching bag Bodhi. The other young man explains that this is the ultimate defense, which converts all power into pure defense. The instructor says he uses this technique in final tests, and that not even with all the strength in the world would he be moved. The protagonist then hits him with another powerful punch, right in the middle of the man's chest. The blow sinks into the instructor's chest, but he doesn't move a single centimeter from where he stands. The other students are impressed and comment that he really didn't move at all. However, the other instructor realizes that something is very wrong with the scene and becomes suspicious. The colorful instructor reveals that his colleague actually passed out standing up from the pain of the blow. To avoid more trouble, he announces that everyone has passed the first round of the exam. The students celebrate their approval while wondering what realm the protagonist is really in. The white-haired young man approaches and says he didn't expect to find another strong person there. He introduces himself as Zhao Mei from the Hewan sect and says his hobby is dual cultivation. He reluctantly accepts the protagonist as his brother, and the young man wonders if he wants something more. The chubby guy from the Tianji sect approaches and asks to be accepted as a younger brother too. He offers to provide accurate information in exchange for the protection of the two strong young men. The boy says he collects information but has no data on the mysterious protagonist. With a friendly smile, he asks which sector school the young master is part of. The protagonist gets nervous and stammers, saying he's a lone cultivator with no affiliation. Suddenly, the white-haired girl approaches, and everyone makes way for the goddess to pass. She says he loves to be the center of attention, and that she will show him the difference between him and a true genius. After challenging him, she turns and walks away, leaving the young man completely confused by the situation. A hooded young man watches the scene from afar with a mysterious and enigmatic look. The colorful instructor shouts not to celebrate too soon, as the next test is about to begin. He presses a red button on a remote control, and something unexpected happens to everyone. The floor beneath their feet opens up, and they fall into a dark, gridded room just below. The candidates wonder what is happening and feel the floor tremble violently. They hold onto each other to keep from falling as the entire room starts to shake. Outside, the room is revealed to be a giant metal cube floating in the middle of the academy. Inside the cube, mechanical statues with red eyes prepare to attack the candidates. Robots with armor and pointed helmets line up, ready to begin the next test. The students are surrounded by the gigantic machines, with nowhere to run or hide. The colorful instructor introduces himself as Huang Luhong and says he will be the examiner for the second round. He reveals that all the puppet mechanisms were created by his Jikia Pavilion. During the test, the machines will attack continuously with weapons hidden in their bodies. The test will last for the time it takes for an incense stick to burn, and the longer they last, the higher their score will be. He lights the incense stick on the unconscious instructor and says it's not good for the weak to pass by pure luck. The protagonist faces the robots as the instructor explains that the weapons are all real. The robots' eyes glow with a blue light, and they prepare to fire at the students. With a wicked smile, the instructor welcomes them to the candidate's graveyard and starts the test. The robots fire beams of light, and the students run desperately to dodge the attacks. The machines shoot lasers from their mouths, creating total chaos inside the test room. Many candidates are hit and give up on the test, while others fight to survive. The instructor watches the scene and comments that the guy from the Hewan sect isn't doing too badly. The white-haired young man uses a special technique to protect himself from attacks coming from behind. He boasts that with his technique, no one can attack him from behind by surprise. But suddenly, a beam hits him square in the chest, and he's shocked by the frontal attack. The instructor pretends he didn't say anything and looks away, embarrassed by his previous comment. The colorful instructor is shocked to see the strength of another promising candidate among the newcomers. The white-haired girl proves to be surprisingly strong, dodging attacks with great agility. She is surprised to see that the protagonist is standing still in the middle of the battlefield without moving. He simply breaks the floor beneath his feet and crouches down to avoid being hit by the beams. With a relieved sigh, he thinks that this way he won't be hit by the robot's attacks. The instructor yells at him and says the test is about speed, not about hiding like a coward. He threatens to disqualify the young man if he breaks any more of his precious robots again. The white-haired girl says she will get the young man out of there and prepares to intervene. But the other instructor grabs the remote control and says she doesn't need to waste her time on the boy. He lights a cigarette and says he's going to let the young man feel the true power of his puppets. With a wicked smile, he presses the button and activates the battle robot's most powerful mode. The machines start to tremble and dismantle in front of all the frightened candidates. The parts of the robots begin to join together and transform into an even larger machine. An intense light shines as the fusion occurs, and a new giant robot emerges on the field. The protagonist is shocked and wonders if those are the Transformers he knew. The chubby guy shouts that it's a Yuanrong fusion and that the robots are now much stronger. He also reveals that the puppets' weapons are coated with a deadly and dangerous poison. The boy says he only noticed the poison because he's feeling very dizzy and about to pass out. The instructor says this isn't a lesson and that they are taking the test too far. The other man asks if he doesn't want the arrogant boy to pass the test, and he agrees. The giant robot fires a volley of shots, and the protagonist moves quickly to dodge. He dodges the attacks with surprising agility and leaves the other candidates behind. The young man looks back and realizes that the others are being hit by the attacks he dodged. He feels guilty for dragging them into the mess and apologizes for his mistake. The instructor threatens to send more robots after him, but the young man seems to have a plan in mind. He is surrounded by the giant machines and prepares for the robot's final attack. With an aura of energy around him, he faces the machines with determination and courage. The instructors warn him that if he damages any more robots, he will be disqualified immediately. The other students realize that all the robots are focused on him and feel relieved. The white-haired girl thinks he's in trouble and that her father was right about him. The protagonist stands still in the middle of the robots and seems to be concentrating for an attack. He tells himself that this is the only way to resolve the situation and prepares to act. With a powerful leap, he launches himself into the air and flies toward the giant robot. He lands a devastating blow on the robot's head and completely destroys it with his strength. The instructors are shocked and wonder how he managed to fly like that. The other candidates also don't understand and wonder what realm he is currently in. The chubby guy explains that he's not using spiritual aura to fly, but something else. He's using only the strength of his legs to jump and stay in the air for a while. Everyone is impressed by the young man's physical strength and can't believe what they're seeing. The instructor says that no matter how strong he is, there's a limit, and he won't stay in the air for long. He orders the robots to attack the spot where the young man will land to catch him by surprise. The protagonist senses the danger and wonders what to do, since he can't destroy the robots. He then gets an idea and uses one of the robots as a footstool to launch himself elsewhere. With a quick movement, he steps on the spears and changes direction in mid-air to escape the attack. He lands in front of the white-haired girl, who stares at him with a surprised expression. Kneeling in front of her, the young man smiles and asks what she's going to do now that they're together. The girl blushes and wonders if he's the type of creep her father warned her to be careful of. Suddenly, he hides behind her and uses her as a human shield against the robot's attacks. The girl's swords block the beams, and she yells at him for using her as a shield. The young man apologizes and says it was the only way he could think of to survive. Furious, she attacks him with her sword, but he manages to dodge the blow with a quick move. She says she'll finish him off first and glares at him with a look of pure anger and determination. Suddenly, the protagonist yells for her to stop and points to the flames coming their way. The other students watch the scene and comment that Boss Lincoln keeps dodging the attacks. The instructor laughs and says that now he has nowhere to escape with so many attacks coming from all sides. The two instructors watch the scene from afar, waiting to see how the young man will get out of this. Suddenly, the incense stick that was in the instructor's mouth falls, and an idea pops into someone's mind. The colorful instructor has a plan and glares at the protagonist with a look of pure malice. The white-haired girl wonders if he has given up, but the young man seems to have another idea in mind. He turns to her with a smile and seems to have a plan to escape the situation. He starts to take a deep breath and concentrate a large amount of energy in his body. The instructors wonder what he's doing taking deep breaths. When he's about to be done for, suddenly, he blows with all his might and creates a powerful gust of wind that hits everyone in the room. The other candidates are swept away by the wind and struggle not to be thrown far away. The instructor thinks it's just a bluff, and that he won't be able to do anything against them. The gust of wind hits the instructor's hair and messes it up completely, leaving him in a sorry state. He approaches the man and asks if he can interrupt for a moment to say something. The young man points to the cigarette and says that the test's incense seems to have gone out. The colorful instructor realizes that the blowing accelerated the burning of the incense and is completely shocked. The chubby guy says that Boss Lincoln has a deeper purpose with his mysterious actions. He says the young man is trying to get benefits for all the other candidates in the room. The white-haired girl blushes and gets angry at the embarrassing situation he caused. She yells that this isn't over and runs away, embarrassed by the scene she witnessed. The protagonist wonders what he did wrong for her to react in such a strange way. The other students are injured but grateful for the young man's help during that difficult test. The colorful instructor smiles and says it's been many years since he's met such an interesting freshman. Suddenly, the academy's dean appears and says that this year's assessment is very lively. The students are shocked by the presence of the academy's headmaster and can't believe what they're seeing. They comment that he doesn't look very trustworthy and that his wig is about to fall off his head. The chubby guy reveals that he is the legendary Red Flame Shura, Yu Tianxing, a much-feared man. The other students are confused by the revelation and don't understand the story behind the dean. They wonder why his red hair is fake if he's such a legendary and feared figure. The dean approaches the protagonist and asks for his name to know who the talented young man is. From the rooftop, the fox girl watches the scene with concern and apprehension for the young man. She wonders why the headmaster suddenly appeared and how she's going to fix the situation now. She uses telepathy to speak to the young man, and he hears her voice in his mind, completely confused. The girl warns him that he knocked off the headmaster's wig and needs to put it back on as quickly as possible. The instructor approaches the headmaster and tries to calm the situation, asking him to be magnanimous. He says that if the instructor were as strong as the headmaster, there would be no problem with the young man. The protagonist runs toward the headmaster with impressive speed and catches the wig in mid-air. He places it back on the headmaster's head, and the man is shocked by the young man's speed. The headmaster can hardly believe what happened and thinks he wouldn't have noticed if it weren't for his sharp eyes. The young master smiles and says he picked up what he dropped, that there's no need to thank him. The instructor is shocked to see that the protagonist put the wig back on backward. The dean ends up with a flag stuck in his head and seems to be seriously injured. The fox girl desperately yells for him to distinguish between the wig and the hidden weapons. The instructor grabs the young man and accuses him of attacking the headmaster, but he says he must have been mistaken. The dean says that small things like that can't hurt him, but he seems to be in a lot of pain. The instructor points out that his blood is dripping, but he says it's part of the test. The protagonist praises the headmaster for not being fazed, but the fox knows he's just pretending. The headmaster tries to pull the weapon from his head but ends up causing himself more serious injuries. Blood gushes everywhere, and the protagonist is shocked by the grotesque scene. He then faints and falls face first onto the ground in front of all the students, who are frightened by the scene. The instructor runs to help the headmaster and holds him in his arms, desperate about the situation. The students comment that he seems like an old man who only knows how to talk a lot but has no real power. The colorful instructor announces that everyone has passed the second round and that the next test will be tomorrow. He orders the headmaster be taken to the alchemy hall for urgent medical treatment. The students wonder if they really passed the assessment and feel that something is wrong. One of them says it feels like they forgot something important but can't remember what it is. Suddenly, the robots start attacking again, and one of the students shouts for Master Huang to turn them off. The instructor who offended him watches from a distance with a wicked smile and a plan in mind. He thinks he didn't expect the young man to give himself up so easily and prepares to act. The other students complain that they almost perished in the test and wonder how they survived. The scene changes to the students' dormitory, where everyone is preparing for the next day. The fox girl finds the protagonist training and asks why he isn't resting. He says he needs to keep strengthening his skills to pass tomorrow's assessment. She agrees that the next assessment is crucial, as only in a better class will they have more resources. However, she reminds him that balancing work and rest is also very important for him. She offers to apply an oil to unblock his meridians, but he is suspicious. The girl thinks that Lingyan is the most ambitious of all, but he seems uncomfortable with her. He warns her to be careful, and she takes the chance to hug him tightly and get closer. With a victorious smile, she thinks her plan has finally worked, and that she got what she wanted. Outside, the white-haired girl is getting ready for bed but hears something strange. She is furious with the protagonist and promises he will pay for what he did to her. She hears a noise coming from the young man's room and approaches to investigate what is happening. Curious, she wonders what that sound is and gets closer to the window to peek inside. She looks through the window and is shocked by the scene unfolding inside the room. She sees the shadows of the protagonist and the fox girl in a compromising position and gets scared. Inside the room, the young man is jumping rope with a heavy iron chain and says he forgot it. The girl says she spilled the wine for external injuries and gets ready to clean up the mess. She grabs a cloth and bends down to wipe the spilled liquid from the room's floor. Suddenly, she steps on the liquid and slips, falling to the ground in a clumsy and funny way. Outside, the white-haired girl thinks she needs to save the other girl from the situation. She sees the fox's shadow approaching the window and thinks it's too late to save her. She covers her eyes with her hands and blushes at the scene she imagines is happening there. The protagonist asks if she's okay, and she replies that she just fell on the floor by accident. She says her clothes got dirty and stands up, showing the damage the wine did. The young man blushes at the scene and turns away so as not to look at the girl in that situation. He offers to find clean clothes for her, and the girl thanks him for his consideration. Suddenly, the room door is kicked open with a strong kick, and someone enters furiously. The white-haired girl bursts into the room and accuses him of being a murderous demon, telling him to surrender. She sees the scene of the shirtless young man and the fox girl with torn clothes and is completely shocked. She accuses him of defiling the girl's body, and the fox wonders how she became a corpse. The protagonist is confused by the accusation of being a murderous demon and understands nothing. He panics and thinks she has discovered his true identity as a member of the sect. She says he doesn't need to say another word and prepares to attack the young man with her sword. The girl uses her Lingxiao sword technique and creates an aura of energy around herself. She launches an attack of 10,000 swords toward the protagonist with all her strength. The young man says he has no choice and that he will have to offend her to defend himself from the attack. He moves with incredible speed and dodges all the attacks with ease. The girl is shocked by his speed and can't believe what she's seeing. She says that's not all she's got and prepares to use an even more powerful technique. With a battle cry, she launches her sky-piercing sword strike in his direction. Her eyes glow with a blue light as she concentrates all her energy on the attack. The energy blast flies toward the young man, and he prepares to receive it head-on. He hits the blast with a powerful punch and completely destroys it with his brute force. The girl is horrified to see that he broke her sword Q with his own body. Suddenly, she feels something behind her and turns to see what is happening there. The protagonist appears behind her and hits her the blow that erases her recent memory. She falls to the ground unconscious, and the young man watches her, not knowing what to do with the situation. He apologizes and says he can't reveal his identity, so he had to do that. The technique he used infuses power into the palm and directs it to the enemy's brain. This alters the target's memory, leaving them completely dazed and without recent memories. The fox warns him to take her back to her room before someone finds them and they get into trouble. The young man carries her on his shoulders and takes her back to her dormitory as quickly as he can. He runs across the academy rooftops under the moonlight so as not to be seen by anyone there. He puts her down near what he thinks is her room and prepares to leave. Suddenly, she starts to wake up, and he panics, not knowing what to do with her. He hits her with another memory-erasing blow, but she keeps waking up, making him nervous. He thinks he was almost exposed and feels relieved to have managed to erase her memory. But then he realizes a much bigger problem and despairs at the situation he's gotten himself into. He has no idea where the girl lives and doesn't know how to get her back to her room. From a distance, the chubby guy watches the scene and wonders what the relationship between the two is. He opens the door to an empty room and puts her on the bed so she can rest. He notices the room is unoccupied and assumes she's probably staying there. The girl starts to wake up and wonders what's happening and where she is now. The protagonist hits her with one more memory-erasing blow and leaves her unconscious. He apologizes once again and says he can't let her discover his identity. The scene changes to the next morning, where everyone is preparing for the next test. The white-haired girl wakes up and doesn't remember anything that happened the night before. He worries because he's never used the technique 3 times in a row on the same person before. He thinks it's better to feel guilty than to be discovered and have his family wiped out. He is surprised by the mess in the girl's room and didn't expect that from a girl. Suddenly, he notices something on the floor and becomes alert to what he just found there. He sees his own wet footprints on the floor and panics at the trail he left behind. He grabs a mop and starts desperately cleaning the floor to leave no traces. He realizes he left footprints all over the room and decides to clean everything up before leaving. In a gazebo in the forest, a hooded young man calmly drinks tea under the moonlight. He senses someone's presence and tells the person not to hide and to come out at once. The instructor who offended him appears and praises the young prodigy for finding him so easily. The hooded young man says that nothing escapes his eyes and asks why he was hiding. The man gets straight to the point and asks for help dealing with a new student who annoyed him. The young man asks why he should help him, and the instructor offers his support in the next election. He promises to support the young man to become the next head of the family if he helps him. The hooded young man agrees to the deal and asks for the identity of the student they will face. The instructor reveals that it's the arrogant boy Wu Lingjun, and the young man smiles wickedly. He says he will rig the drawing and that the young prodigy just needs to accidentally take him out. The young man agrees to the plan and tells the instructor not to forget his promise. The scene changes to the next morning, where all the students are gathered for the next test. The colorful instructor explains that the assessment will be a doubles competition to test their skills. The instructor calls him back, and the young man asks what else he wants his help with. The man says he needs help with something else and reveals an unexpected situation. His leg is trapped by a green water dragon, and he can't get free on his own. He begs the young man to save him, and the young man wonders how someone like him became an instructor. With no choice, he decides to intervene and prepares to attack the dragon with his sword. He cuts off the dragon's tail and frees the instructor from the creature that was holding him. With a powerful blow, he completely destroys the dragon and saves the man from danger. He says it's over, and the instructor falls from the sky towards him with a look of relief. The young man catches him in his arms, and the man thanks him for his strength and courage. He asks the instructor to let him go, but the man seems to be enjoying the moment. The young man throws him into the water and walks away, leaving the instructor alone and wet in the lake. Elsewhere, the hooded young man finds a spirit and says that he has finally appeared. The spirit warns him that the protagonist is not as simple as he thinks and is very strong. He says that the power the young man showed is something he himself would have difficulty achieving. The young man says that no one in the world can defeat him, and the spirit seems to doubt his confidence. He reveals that he is a time traveler and therefore knows things that others do not. He says he was an ordinary student in another world before being reincarnated in that place. He was transported to the world of cultivation after being hit by a truck in an accident. He became a seemingly insignificant young master of the Xiao family and began his journey. The scene changes to the next day, where the students are preparing for the placement test. He trips and falls face first into ox manure and finds a mysterious ring inside. The ring contained the spirit of Master Dan, who helped him become stronger and more powerful. He believes that with his protagonist model, no one can stop him on his path. He says that the protagonist's destiny is to be defeated by him, even if they have no quarrel. Elsewhere, the young master sneezes out of nowhere and wonders why that happened. He doesn't give it much thought and decides to leave, since the room is clean and tidy. He leaves the room and closes the door carefully so as not to wake the sleeping girl. He says goodbye and leaves, leaving her alone in the room to rest in peace. The hooded young man returns to his room and finds the door open, which makes him suspicious. He enters the room and realizes someone has been there while he was out and wonders what it is. He approaches the bed and is shocked to find the white-haired girl sleeping there. He can't believe what he's seeing and wonders how a cultivator got into his room. He blushes and is embarrassed by the unexpected situation and doesn't know how to react. He watches her sleep and realizes she is the dream goddess of the younger generation. He remembers that it's not the time to fall in love and tries to focus on the current situation. The scene changes to the next day, where everyone is gathered for the placement test. The instructor announces that the test will be a doubles battle to assess combat skills. The protagonist joins the other students and prepares for the challenge ahead. The white-haired girl glares at him with a look of contempt and seems determined to defeat him. The hooded young man also watches him from a distance with a wicked smile and a plan in mind. He approaches a cabinet and takes a potion to help the girl recover. He thinks that a girl cleaning his room and lying on his bed can only mean one thing. With a confident look, he concludes that she must be in love with him and feels excited. He remembers reading comics in his past life and how the heroines always fall in love. He wonders if the white-haired girl is his destined heroine and approaches her. He realizes she hasn't woken up yet and wonders why she's taking so long. The spirit explains that her consciousness was damaged, which is why she can't wake up. The young man concludes that she spent too much energy cleaning his room, and that's why she passed out. He says he learned first aid in his past life and will help her recover. He kneels beside her and prepares to give her mouth-to-mouth resuscitation to wake her up. The girl starts to wake up and wonders what is happening and where she is. He leans in to kiss her, but she wakes up and sees him on top of her with a strange expression. Suddenly, the protagonist hears an explosion and turns to see what is happening. The girl kicks him away and yells for him to never let her see him again. He wonders why she attacked him if she clearly has feelings for him. He concludes that the women of that world are naturally reserved and that he was too fast. The spirit asks why he is so sure she likes him and not that she just went to the wrong room. With a confident smile, he says it's because he was born to be a successful protagonist. Outside, the girl wonders how she ended up in someone else's bed and feels confused. The scene changes to the next day, where the students are gathered for the placement test. She vaguely remembers confronting the protagonist, but the details are hazy. Suddenly, she remembers everything and realizes that he is a dangerous demonic cultivator. She accuses him of using bodies for cultivation and is horrified by her discovery. She thinks she didn't expect to stumble upon such a big secret and realizes the danger she's in. With a determined smile, she promises to find proof that he is a demonic cultivator. She shouts his name into the night and swears she will get revenge for what he did to her. The other students hear the shouts and wonder what happened between the two. The next day, everyone is gathered at the performance stage for the next test. They complain about the delay and wonder why no instructor has shown up yet. The protagonist is training with gigantic weights and says he needs to train even more. The fox calms him down and says that with his strength, he will definitely get into the top class. The white-haired girl glares at him angrily and calls him arrogant for showing off so much. The other students wonder why she seems so excited to see him and what happened. The chubby guy smiles and says that no one there knows the full story between the two. He says their relationship is deeper than they think and prepares to tell everything. But before he could speak, the hooded young man threatens him with a sword to his neck. He tells him not to slander the girl, and the chubby guy agrees, terrified by the threat. The young man throws him to the ground and walks away, leaving the chubby guy scared and confused. The others wonder why he got so angry and conclude that he must be a fan of hers. The young man thinks that she is his destined heroine and wouldn't get involved with a nobody. Suddenly, one of the instructors shouts for everyone to be quiet and pay attention. The students turn around and see the three instructors standing on the stage, ready to start the test. With a leap, they land on the stage and prepare to give instructions for the next phase. They announce that the third assessment is about to begin, and all the students pay attention. The instructor explains that in this round, they will be tested in real combat with no restrictions. The dean with a new wig watches everything closely to personally evaluate the process. The protagonist notices the headmaster's new wig, and the fox tells him to be quiet to avoid trouble. The colorful instructor presses a button, and a strange machine appears in the middle of the stage. He explains that everyone must draw their combat numbers to determine the fight pairings. The students line up, and one by one, they put their hand inside the machine to get a number. The protagonist approaches and prepares to get his number and find out his opponent. He puts his hand inside the machine and feels something strange happen to the paper he picked. The instructor who hates him gives the signal to start, and a sharp blade comes out of the machine. The blade cuts the paper in his hand, and he realizes that something is very wrong with the drawing. He looks at the paper and sees that the number is completely destroyed and unreadable. He turns around and sees the instructor laughing with a wicked look, and realizes he was sabotaged. Suddenly, he feels something strange and turns to the machine to see what is happening. He looks at the paper in his hand and sees the number 38, and doesn't understand what it is. The instructor continues to laugh and seems satisfied with the result of his evil plan. The scene changes to the combat arena, where the protagonist prepares to face his opponent. The instructor boasts about managing to make the protagonist pick the number he wanted. He says he didn't become an instructor for nothing, and that his plan will work perfectly. The hooded young man says he is not in the same group as the protagonist, and the instructor laughs. He explains that the young man has some strength, but he didn't put him in the same group on purpose. He wanted someone to test the protagonist's abilities before facing him personally. The protagonist sees the shadow of his opponent and wonders who his adversary in the fight will be. He turns and sees a giant, muscular man standing in front of him with a look of contempt. The man calls him a weakling and says he should surrender before the fight even begins. The chubby guy recognizes the man and is shocked to see who his friend's first opponent is. He reveals that the man is Wang Tiju, a famous and much feared assassin from the martial world. The man says he watched the protagonist's previous assessments and was not impressed at all. He calls him trash with a bit of natural strength and despises him for his lack of skill. He boasts about being at the peak of Chuai refinement and threatens to take him out with a single blow. The fox girl is furious at the provocation and prepares to intervene in the fight. The man challenges her and asks if she wants to fight him right now instead of the young man. The other students are eager to see the fight and wonder if the protagonist will succeed. Suddenly, a wave of energy emanates from the protagonist and knocks down everyone around him. The fox scolds him for being so polite to his opponent, but he says that what he said is true. The man says that he knows the difference between them. He should kneel and beg. The protagonist prepares to answer and faces the man with a serious and determined look. He says that even though he is weak, he has reasons to keep fighting and that he won't give up. The man glares at him with red eyes of anger and prepares for the fight to come. He tells the young man to prepare to be defeated in the arena and turns to leave. The fox praises the protagonist for his courage, and he gets embarrassed by her compliment. The assassin meets with the instructor and the hooded young man to discuss the plan. He says that if he takes him out, he needs to be placed in the top class, and the instructor assures him he will. He promises he will make the boy understand how powerful he is and that he will defeat him. The instructor hopes the protagonist won't be eliminated in the first round and laughs wickedly. He announces that the drawing is over and calls the first freshman to the combat arena. The white-haired girl is the first to be called, and everyone is excited to see her fight. Her opponent is the white-haired young man, who invites her for dual cultivation again. The other students are furious at his audacity and shout for him to get off the stage. They throw food at him, but he dodges, and the attacks end up hitting the instructor. The man complains that he dodged, but the attacks hit him, and he becomes furious with the situation. The hooded young man watches the scene and promises he will remember the young man's name for coveting his woman. The instructor wonders how they got so close so quickly, and the young man says it's the protagonist's aura. The dean tells them to cut the act and announces the start of the first match of the tournament. The students prepare for the fight, and the instructor is covered in food and dirt. The white-haired girl prepares to fight with all her strength and faces her opponent. The white-haired young man boasts of his strength and prepares for the combat to come. He faces the girl and says that this is exactly what he wanted to happen there. He says she doesn't understand the power of the Hewen sect, and that he will show his true abilities. He prepares to use a special technique, the ghostly Iron Mountain Fall. With a quick move, he creates shadow clones to confuse the girl in the arena. The chubby guy is impressed and says he's using fast movements to create clones. He says that if she can't figure out which is his real body, she will never be able to defeat him. The girl faces him with a serious look and prepares for the coming attack. She notices that all the clones have their legs spread wide in a strange way and gets an idea. She kicks him in a very sensitive spot, and he screams in pain, revealing which was his real body. He calls her despicable for attacking there, and she glares at him with a look of pure contempt. He says he has harassed others before and was therefore prepared for that blow. The girl is shocked by his shamelessness and wonders how that is something to be proud of. She prepares to attack again, and he says that since she didn't accept his goodwill, he will not be merciful and will use all his power to defeat her in the combat arena. He launches a sphere of energy in her direction and prepares for the final attack. He runs around her and creates more shadow clones to confuse her once more. The protagonist wonders why he doesn't just throw the chi sphere directly to attack her. The chubby guy explains that the higher the cultivator's level, the farther their chu can travel. He realizes that his father and the fox are actually very strong and is shocked by the discovery. The shadow clones launch energy spheres at her from all sides. She holds the energy sphere and asks if that's all he has to show her. He says the charade must end and prepares for the next attack with more seriousness. She warns him not to underestimate her and prepares for what's to come in the fight. He attacks her from behind, but she turns and dodges the blow with a quick and agile move. He boasts of his control over the Chu sphere and says she has no chance of winning. He launches the sphere at her, but she catches it with her hands without any problem. She is surprised by how easily she caught the attack and glares at him with contempt. He launches more spheres, and she dodges all of them with agility and grace on the battlefield. He jumps into the air and prepares for an aerial attack, but she is ready to counter. She hits him with a powerful kick and sends him flying with the force of the blow. The instructors are impressed by her ability to manipulate spiritual energy. The chubby guy explains that it's a secret technique of the Hiwon sect that controls energy. The white-haired girl prepares for the next attack and faces him with determination. She is furious for being forced to unsheath her sword for such a despicable guy. She launches a powerful attack in his direction and prepares to end the fight. He protects himself with an energy barrier, but she cuts through it with her sharp sword. His pants rip in the middle of the fight, and he is embarrassed by the awkward situation. He is shocked that she managed to break his energy sphere so easily. The scene changes to the protagonist, who watches the fight with interest and curiosity. He seems to be analyzing the techniques of the two fighters to learn from them. The young man falls to the ground defeated, and the white-haired girl wins the first fight of the tournament. The protagonist is shocked by her ability to control energy and wonders how she did that. The instructor announces that the girl has won the match, and the crowd celebrates her victory. She glares at the defeated young man with a look of contempt and turns to leave the arena. The protagonist wonders if this is what battles between cultivators are really like. Suddenly, a girl is hit by a giant chicken leg and falls to the ground. The protagonist turns and sees a pink-haired girl with an expression of admiration. She says the white-haired girl is the #1 cultivator of the younger generation. The white-haired girl hears the compliments and wishes to be as strong as her one day. The protagonist is impressed by the girl's size, and the fox seems jealous. She turns and hits the fox in the face with her chest, leaving the fox shocked. The fox girl realizes the protagonist likes that and gets a strange expression on her face. The pink-haired girl looks at the chicken leg and seems very hungry. She asks if the protagonist wants to eat, and his mouth waters at the food. He says he has practiced a lot since yesterday and is really hungry after so much effort. The fox girl wonders what she should do and can't believe a stranger understands him better. The protagonist starts eating the chicken leg, and the fox is shocked by the scene. The instructor orders the defeated young man to be taken away and to prepare for the next fight of the tournament. The protagonist eats and asks the name of the pink-haired girl who helped him. She introduces herself as Mirong Chan, a student who entered the academy last year. The fox asks if she is there to compete with the freshmen, and the girl denies it. She explains that she failed and is therefore taking the placement exam again. The protagonist says she doesn't seem nervous, and she replies that if she fails, she will be expelled. The chubby guy reveals that the girl comes from a famous family of renowned alchemists. Her family members are revered everywhere and are highly respected. She developed a technique that combines alchemy with cooking to create powerful food. The protagonist is shocked to learn that the meat he ate was actually a spirit pill. He is embarrassed for having eaten her meat, but she says it's no problem. She says she can't stand to see someone hungry and looks at him with a gentle smile. The young man is charmed by her kindness, and the fox gets jealous of the scene. He calls her an angel, and the fox yells that it's not that big of a deal and he's exaggerating. Suddenly, the white-haired girl approaches and everyone makes way for her to pass. The pink-haired girl approaches her and asks for an autograph with sparkling eyes. She looks at her with an expression of admiration and respect for her strength and skill. The white-haired girl refuses the autograph and warns her to be careful when making friends. The protagonist and the fox watch the scene and don't understand the girl's attitude. She approaches the protagonist and threatens him, saying she will find out what he did. The other students wonder what happened and if what the chubby guy said is true. The instructor announces the next match and calls the protagonist to the combat arena. The white-haired girl glares at him with a challenging look and prepares to fight. The girl asks if he is really close to the other girl, and he says he only knows her. She begs him to introduce them, as she wants to become as strong as the white-haired girl. Suddenly, the instructor calls the pink-haired girl to the arena, and she is startled by the shout. She apologizes for not having heard and prepares for her fight in the placement tournament. She asks him not to forget to talk to the other girl, and the young man agrees to try. The fox says the girl is strange and that he should avoid associating with her. He says she seems like a good person and that anyone who cares so much about others can't be bad. The instructor warns her that this is her last chance to pass, and she says she knows. She takes a deep breath and prepares for the fight that will decide her future at the academy. She says she needs to win at least one match to be able to repeat the year and not be expelled. She despairs at the thought of going back to where she came from and focuses on the fight. The instructor calls number 36 to the stage, and the hooded young man approaches. He glares at the pink-haired girl with a wicked smile and prepares for combat. She stares back at him with a surprised expression and doesn't understand what is happening. He takes off his hood and reveals his identity to the girl, who is shocked to see him there. He says he's on his way and prepares for the fight with a look of pure confidence. The two face each other in the arena and prepare for the battle that will decide their fates. The dean and the colorful instructor watch the scene and wonder how the girl from the Mirong family ended up there. The instructor explains that she failed almost all of last year's assessment tests. Even the alchemy test she was supposed to be good at was a complete disaster for her. The instructor says that if she doesn't win any matches, she will have to be sent back home. The protagonist realizes that although she can make medicinal food, she has no combat skills. The instructor announces the start of the match, and the two opponents face each other in the arena. He jumps to the side and gives them space to fight with all their strength and skill. The pink-haired girl says she absolutely cannot lose and prepares for the fight. The hooded young man says he didn't expect to fight such a cute girl like her. He boasts of his vast experience and says he will easily win the upcoming fight. He imagines that after the battle, she will be impressed and throw herself into his arms. Suddenly, the girl attacks him with a powerful punch and hits him square in the face. The blow sends him flying, and he falls to the ground, stunned by her strength. The protagonist wonders why he is just standing there smiling instead of fighting. The spirit warns him not to daydream and not to get eliminated in the first round. He says he is the protagonist and won't lose so easily to a girl like her. She attacks him again with a powerful punch, but he grabs her wrist and stops her. He says the same move won't work twice and glares at her with a serious look. She attacks him with a kick, but he dodges and throws her away with a quick move. He prepares for the next attack, and the girl faces him with a look of determination. She runs towards him and prepares for a close-range attack with all her strength. He faces her with a confident smile and prepares for what's to come in the fight. The scene changes to the protagonist, who watches the fight attentively and learns from both of them. He says that ordinary hand-to-hand combat will never hit him and boasts of his skill. The protagonist cheers for her, and the fox gets jealous of him cheering for the other girl. The pink-haired girl takes a deep breath and prepares to use a secret and powerful technique. She takes out a giant chicken leg and says she absolutely cannot lose the fight. She shoves the entire chicken leg into her mouth, and the young man is shocked by the bizarre scene. The chubby guy realizes she is using spiritual food to increase her combat power. He wonders what will happen if she eats so much at once, since they are real pills. He fears she might explode with so much energy accumulated in her body at once. Suddenly, an intense light emanates from her, and the young man shields himself from the energy blast. Her clothes rip from the explosion, and she takes on a wilder, more powerful appearance. The protagonist and the fox are shocked and wonder if it was a body explosion or a clothes explosion. The hooded young man's nose starts bleeding, and he laughs at the scene he just witnessed. He says that even with a last-minute effort, she still won't be able to defeat him. The girl says that even if it's impossible, she has to try and prepares to attack. She attacks him with a powerful kick, but he dodges and throws her away with ease. The spirit warns him that her strength is now beyond the chi refinement stage. She says it's not over yet and prepares for an even more powerful and devastating attack. He says he will also take the fight seriously and prepares for the combat to come. The two face each other in the arena and prepare for the final battle that will decide the winner. The scene changes to the protagonist, who watches the fight attentively and learns from both of them. He is shocked to see that she managed to counter the attack with such strength and skill. She attacks him with a powerful kick and sends him flying with the force of the blow. The protagonist praises her strength, but the fox says she is pushing her limits. She explains that at this intensity, she won't be able to fight for more than a few minutes. The pink-haired girl breathes heavily and wonders if she managed to win the fight. She looks at her fallen opponent and can't believe she defeated him so easily. The instructor is worried about the young man, but the dean calms him down and tells him not to worry. He says the battle is not over yet, and that the hooded young man has not been defeated. Suddenly, the young man gets up and says he didn't expect to be pushed by a local girl. He says it seems he needs to show his true strength to win the fight once and for all. He gets up and faces the girl with a serious and determined look, ready for battle. He says this time he won't hold back and will use all his power to defeat her. He advances toward her with incredible speed, and the girl prepares for the attack. She is surprised by his speed and can't believe what she's seeing there. He attacks her from above, and the protagonist yells for her to watch out for the coming blow. She turns and prepares for the attack, but he is faster and hits her square on. The blow sends her flying, and she falls to the ground, defeated and with no strength to fight. He glares at her with a victorious smile and prepares for the next attack with malice. The protagonist watches the scene and wonders why he is acting so cruelly. The scene changes to the instructor, who seems satisfied with the result of the fight in the arena. He creates a blue fire lotus flower and launches it at her with a wicked smile. The attack hits her square on and throws her far away with a powerful energy explosion. Her silhouette is seen in the middle of the explosion, and the young man seems satisfied with the result. She screams in pain as she is hit by the devastating blow and falls to the ground powerless. The protagonist and the fox are shocked by the power of the attack and worry about the girl. Her clothes are torn, and she seems to be suffering from the battle's injuries. The fox covers the protagonist's eyes and tells him not to look at the unfolding scene. The instructors are surprised to see that the young man possesses the blue lotus flame and are impressed. The girl breathes heavily and wonders what happened to her after the powerful attack. He approaches and asks if she still won't surrender, even after everything that has happened. She glares at him with a look of determination and prepares for the next move in the fight. She takes a bottle and drinks its contents in one gulp to regain her strength and power. The liquid engulfs her in flames, and she prepares to attack with renewed and surprising force. He is shocked by her recovery and can't believe what he's seeing there. She attacks him with a series of powerful punches and hits him square on with all her strength. He tries to defend himself, but she is faster and hits him repeatedly without stopping. She attacks him with relentless fury and leaves him no chance to counter the blows. The instructors wonder if the girl has gone crazy and watch the scene in amazement. The protagonist notices that her aura has intensified and wonders if she has leveled up. The scene changes to the girl, who seems to have awakened a new power within herself. The fox explains that she is pushing her limits with even more pills to win. She says that at that moment, the girl is literally burning her own life force to fight. The pink-haired girl says she can't lose and continues to attack with all her might. He defends against the blows and notices her stubbornness in not giving up the fight. He says he won't hold back anymore and prepares to use a powerful and final attack. He attacks her with a blue lotus explosion and throws her far away with the force of the blow. The explosion hits her square on, and she is thrown back with no chance to defend herself. She screams in pain as she is hit by the attack and falls to the ground, defeated and powerless. He prepares to attack again, but the instructor yells for him to stop the fight. He says the fight could end in tragedy and orders the combat to be stopped immediately. He attacks her with a blue lotus whirlwind and traps her in an energy vortex. The instructor shouts that the match is over, but he doesn't stop the attack and continues to fight. He says it's too late and that he won't stop until she surrenders and gives up the fight. The girl wonders if it's really over and prepares for the worst to come. Suddenly, she remembers her past and how she was scolded by her family. Her father accuses her of dishonoring the family by studying useless recipes instead of alchemy. She says her food also has the effects of pills and doesn't understand why she can't use it. Her father hits her and says that cooking is a disgrace to the Murong family name. He decides to send her to the academy, and if she doesn't learn, they will arrange a marriage for her. He calls her useless and kicks her out of the house, telling her never to see her again. She clenches her fist tightly and says she needs to prove that her food is as good as pills. She remembers her dream of changing people's perception of cooking and despairs. In the end, she wonders if anything can really change and if she will be able to prove her worth. Suddenly, the protagonist appears in front of her and protects her from the hooded young man's attack. He stops him from attacking and says she is a good person and he can't hurt her. He says that if he intends to hurt her, he will have to go through him first and challenges him. He tries to draw his weapon but can't and realizes the young man is really very strong. He says the protagonist is brave and glares at him with a look of contempt and admiration. The instructor interrupts the fight and tells everyone to leave the arena as the match is over. He announces that the winner of the match is the hooded young man, and the girl is devastated by the news. He glares at the protagonist with a victorious smile and boasts about his victory in the arena. He warns the young man to win the next match or he won't get the chance to face him. The protagonist says he will do his best to pass the first round and glares back at him. The fox gets angry at his calmness and says the young man was clearly threatening him. The pink-haired girl approaches and coughs weakly, showing that she is badly injured. He asks if she is okay, and she thanks him for saving her from the opponent's attack. She laments not be able to win a single round, even giving it her all in the fight. The scene changes to the next match, where the protagonist prepares to face his opponent. The white-haired girl glares at him with a look of contempt and seems determined to win. The hooded young man watches him from afar with a wicked smile and a plan in mind. She begins to cry desperately and feels humiliated for losing the fight. Suddenly, she starts to throw up, and the protagonist worries about her condition. He says she's fine, and the fox prepares to get healing pills to help her. She says she ate too much and ended up throwing up, but the fox complains that it looks like blood. The protagonist offers to help her rest, and she thanks him for his kindness. The instructor calls him and asks where he thinks he's going with the pink-haired girl. He says it's his turn to fight, and the protagonist prepares for the combat to come. He reveals that his opponent is the assassin Wang Tizu, and the man glares at the young man with contempt. He tells the fox to take the girl off the stage, and she reluctantly agrees. She wonders why she has to take care of that foolish woman and takes her to a safe place. The instructor tells the two to prepare for the fight, and the arena falls completely silent. The protagonist and his opponent face each other in the arena, ready for the final combat. The man taunts him and says he has given up his last chance to survive. The protagonist faces him in silence and prepares for the fight that is about to begin. The instructor announces the start of the match, and the assassin advances to attack the young man. He attacks him with his giant weapon, but the protagonist prepares to counter the blow. He says if that's how it is, he'll have to take him out, and glares at him with a look of pure malice. The girls worry about the protagonist and wonder if he will be okay in the fight. The fox tells them not to worry, as they don't understand her brother's strength and that no attack will take him down. The protagonist faces his opponent with confidence and prepares for the combat to come. The protagonist wonders what kind of move that is and looks at him with curiosity. The assassin takes a deep breath and prepares to use a secret and very powerful technique. He releases a dark energy aura and shouts with all his might in the combat arena. An explosion of golden light occurs, and the protagonist watches the scene with great attention. He stumps on the ground with force and prepares for the final attack with a look of pure determination. He reveals his secret technique, the Iron Pillar Dance, and strikes a completely bizarre pose. The protagonist's nose starts bleeding, and he is shocked by the scene he is witnessing. The other students are also disgusted and start to feel sick at the sight. The chubby guy says that's why no one who has seen him fight can stand up afterward. The colorful instructor says that using such a flashy move is a disgrace to the academy. The dean scolds him and says the visual effect is just a distraction for the real attack. He points to the other students fallen on the ground and says that something is very wrong with them. The protagonist also feels nauseous and realizes the attack has a hidden effect. The assassin jumps into the air and prepares to attack the young man while he is distracted. He attacks him with his giant weapon, but the protagonist manages to dodge the blow in time. He says the young man won't escape and chases him around the arena with his weapon in hand. He attacks him again with a powerful blow, but the protagonist continues to dodge. He uses the Iron Pillar whirlwind dance and creates an energy vortex in the arena. The other students can't take it anymore and start to throw up at the disgusting scene. The pink-haired girl figures out his trick and prepares to counter the attack. She reveals that his trick is to release a toxic smoke from his iron pillar. He says the entire arena is covered in his poisonous smoke and that the match is already his. The protagonist covers his nose and mouth to avoid inhaling the poison and prepares to fight. The girls complain that using poison secretly is despicable, but he doesn't care at all. He says that on a stage of life or demise, all means are fair to win the fight. The instructor smiles and thinks that he is exactly the kind of assassin he hired. The hooded young man almost fell for the trick, but the instructor corrects him and says he actually did fall for it. The assassin attacks him with his giant weapon and tells him to perish in agony in the arena. The protagonist feels his body become paralyzed and his head ache from the effect of the poison. He wonders what is happening and realizes he is in a very dangerous situation. The man mocks him and says he can't even use 10% of his strength now. He says he will end his suffering quickly and glares at him with a cruel look. He attacks him with a powerful punch, but the protagonist manages to defend against the blow. The blow injures him, but he doesn't give up and prepares to counter the opponent's attack. The assassin attacks him with a series of punches, and the protagonist struggles to stay on his feet. He hits him repeatedly with his frantic iron pillar dance and leaves him no chance. The protagonist is hit from all sides and seems to be losing the fight badly. The pink-haired girl can't believe he is losing so badly, and the fox yells for him to stop. She yells at the instructors to stop the match, but they do nothing to intervene. The instructor says he still has the ability to fight, so they can't stop the fight. The protagonist continues to be hit, but doesn't give up and prepares for the counter-attack. The white-haired girl watches the scene from afar and seems disappointed with his strength. She says if that's all he's got, he truly disappoints her and glares at him with contempt. The assassin prepares for the final blow and raises his weapon to attack the young man. He hits him with a devastating blow, and the protagonist seems to have been finally defeated. The girls are shocked by the scene and can't believe what just happened. The man is surprised to see that the protagonist is still standing and stares at him in amazement. The young man holds his weapon with his hands and stops him from attacking again with his strength. He says that with the little strength he has left, he still wants to resist and glares at him with contempt. The protagonist says that it's because he has little strength that he needs to put everything into his last punch. The man laughs and says that a weak punch like that won't be able to hurt him at all. He hits him with a powerful punch to the stomach, and the man is shocked by the force of the blow. He can't believe that such a weak punch could cause so much damage to him. An energy explosion emanates from the protagonist and hits the assassin with all its force. The blow sends him flying and he falls to the ground, defeated and with no strength to fight. The girls and the chubby guy are shocked by the scene and can't believe the turn of events. The man gets up and faces the protagonist with a look of pure anger and determination. He attacks him again with a powerful punch, but the protagonist prepares to counter. The blow hits him square on, and the man screams in pain from the force of the attack he received. He falls to the ground defeated, and the protagonist wins the fight with his last ounce of strength. He stands up injured but victorious and says he won the fight with his final blow. The assassin can't believe he lost and says it's impossible to have been defeated. He asks how the protagonist defeated him, if he was poisoned and had no strength to fight. He wonders if the young man has some special ability that protects him from the poison. The protagonist says that this is the power he has even after being weakened. The man calls him a monster and stares at him with a look of pure fear and admiration. The instructor announces that the winner of the round is the protagonist, and the crowd cheers. He celebrates the victory and feels relieved to have managed to pass the first round. The dean orders the poison mist that the assassin released in the combat arena to be dissipated. The colorful instructor uses a fan to clear the air and release everyone from the effect of the poison. A rain of antidote falls on the students, and they begin to recover from the poison. They feel their bodies returning to normal and their strength gradually being restored. The protagonist also feels better and realizes the poison didn't affect him that much. The pink-haired girl congratulates him on the victory and jumps for joy in the arena. She hugs him tightly and says he is even more powerful than she imagined. The fox is furious at the scene and prepares to separate the two with great jealousy. She stumps on the ground and prepares to attack the girl, who is hugging him. She pushes her away and yells not to get so close to her brother Lingen. The girl says she just wanted to congratulate him, but the fox accuses her of wanting his body. The scene changes to the next fight, where the protagonist prepares for his next opponent. The hooded young man complains that he should be the one surrounded by pretty girls, not the protagonist. The instructor says the young man's strength really exceeded his expectations and admires him. He asks if the hooded young man is sure he can handle him, and he replies that he is. He says that in his dictionary, the word "lows" does not exist and prepares for the fight. Suddenly, an old man interrupts him and hands him a paper with a fine. He says that setting fire to the academy results in a fine of 500 spirit stones. The young man gets annoyed and asks who he is and why he is fining him like that. The instructor holds him back and says that he is in charge of discipline and is the headmaster's uncle. The old man glares at the young man with a serious look and leaves him speechless with his presence. He points to the headmaster and says that he is watching everything with attention and care. The young man pays the fine, but the old man fines him again for attacking an academy staff member. He is furious with the situation, but the instructor calms him down and tells him to pay the fine. He promises to get revenge on the headmaster and the old man, and also on the protagonist for everything that happened. He glares at the young man with a look of hatred and promises he will get his revenge on him too. The protagonist feels a chill and wonders why it suddenly got so cold there. The chubby guy congratulates him for defeating a 5-star assassin so easily. He says that thanks to him, he got a lot of information that will sell well in the black market. Suddenly, the instructor calls the chubby guy, says he is the last one to fight in the first round. The young man is shocked and prepares for his fight in the final placement tournament. The scene changes to the arena where the chubby guy prepares to face his opponent. The chubby guy faces his opponent in the arena and prepares for the fight to begin. His opponent is Yuji Akshu, a red-haired young man with a serious and confident look. The dean reveals that the young man is his useless grandson, and the colorful instructor is surprised. He says the boy refuses to learn the family's techniques, so he sent him to the academy. The other students find out he is the headmaster's grandson and comment on his appearance. The protagonist warns him that he's going to get beaten up badly, but the chubby guy laughs and underestimates him. He says his intelligence can compensate for his lack of combat skills. He reveals that he has a lot of information on the headmaster's grandson and is prepared for the fight. He says that with his secret techniques, he won't go down without a fight in the arena. The instructor announces the start of the match, and the chubby guy prepares to use his technique. He uses the divine technique of the open celestial eye, and a third eye appears on his forehead. The fox explains that it is a secret ability that can glimpse the future and is very rare. The chubby guy faces his opponent and prepares to use his ability to predict his movements. The red-haired young man says the fight is getting interesting and prepares to attack. He uses the TNG deduction to analyze the probabilities of his opponent's attack. He predicts that the probability of him using earth techniques is 85%. The young man uses the earth rock thrust, and the chubby guy prepares to dodge the attack. He creates a giant rock wall and launches it towards the chubby guy with all his strength. The chubby guy dodges the attack, and the red-haired young man is surprised by his agility. He says the attack path was already in his calculations and that he won't be hit. The protagonist says the chubby guy is quite agile, and the fox confirms it's because of his celestial eye. She explains that with this ability, he receives thoughts from a divine ancestor of the TNG sect. Basically, it's as if he's possessed by a god, which is why he can fight so well now. The headmaster's grandson is not fazed and prepares for the next attack with his hands glowing red. The chubby guy then calculates that there is a 90% chance of the opponent using close-range martial arts. Suddenly, the young man uses a technique to shorten the distance and advances quickly towards him. With a quick move, he appears in front of the chubby guy and prepares to attack him with a punch. The young man doesn't panic and tells himself he just needs to raise his hand in a certain position. With a confident smile, he believes he can easily block the opponent's attack. But to his surprise, the young man's punch hits him square in the face with devastating force. The blow sends him flying, and the chubby guy falls to the ground, completely knocked out and defeated. The headmaster's grandson himself is surprised by the result and doesn't understand what just happened. The chubby guy is lying on the ground with a giant bump on his head and seems to be out of the fight. The protagonist shouts his friend's name, worried about his current state. The young man gets up and writes in his notebook that he needs to calculate the difference in strength next time. The protagonist shouts that it's not the time for note-taking, and the chubby guy faints again on the ground. The instructor congratulates the young master on his victory and wonders if the chubby guy will be okay. The headmaster says his grandson has progressed but still refuses to use his family's techniques. The red-haired young man looks up and faces his grandfather and the instructor in the academy tower. Without a word, he just turns and walks away from the combat arena with a serious look. The instructor then tells young Master Yu to leave the stage and prepare for the next round. Meanwhile, the protagonist carries his friend on his back and praises him for his strength in the fight. The young man says he wanted to learn that technique, but the chubby guy replies that he doesn't need it. Suddenly, the instructor announces that the second round will also have randomly chosen opponents. The red-haired instructor asks if the drawing will really be random, and the headmaster says he doesn't know. The hooded young man worries about not being able to face the protagonist, but the instructor calms him down. With a wicked smile, he reveals that the young master has offended many more people than they think. He then crumples a piece of paper in his hand and says the first match of the round has already been decided. Opening the papers with a nervous face, he prepares to announce the names of the next fighters. The instructor then shouts the name Wu Lingjun, and the young man watches the stage attentively for the fight. And his opponent is none other than the hooded young man Xiao Huo, who smiles wickedly. The pink-haired girl and the fox wonder how the drawing was rigged like that. The instructor shows the papers and denies any manipulation, saying the academy is fair to everyone. The hooded young man agrees with the charade and jumps into the arena, ready for the combat to come. He provokes the protagonist, asking if the young man is afraid of his strength, and the fox gets angry. The young master tells the girl that's enough talk and prepares for the upcoming fight. With a serious look, he says he can't back down if he wants to get into a better class at the academy. The pink-haired girl thinks he's cool, but the fox is jealous while the chubby guy takes notes. The protagonist steps into the combat arena and faces his opponent with a serious and determined look. The hooded young man smiles and says he didn't expect him to actually have the courage to fight him. With a wicked smile, he prepares to attack the protagonist with his giant sword. Without waiting for the fight to start, he advances and says he's going to settle the score with the young man. The fox shouts that it was a surprise attack, but the instructor pretends the fight had already started. Furious, she complains that everyone at the academy is picking on her brother and calls them despicable. The young master manages to dodge all of the opponent's attacks with impressive agility. The hooded young man continues to attack relentlessly, but can't hit the protagonist at all. The instructor is shocked by the young man's speed and can't believe what he is seeing. Suddenly, the protagonist appears behind the opponent, and the instructor yells for him to watch out. With a powerful punch, he prepares to hit the hooded young man from behind with everything he's got. The young man turns and blocks the blow, saying that although the young man is fast, it's not enough. An explosion of blue flames occurs and a shockwave hits the entire combat arena. The protagonist is thrown far away by the force of the explosion, and the opponent is left unharmed. He manages to protect himself from the flames with his arms, but seems to have gotten slightly burned. The young man says he has already figured out his fighting style and won't let him get any closer. The protagonist blows on his burned hand and complains that the opponent's flames are very hot. With a serious expression, he realizes the situation is becoming very dangerous for him. The hooded young man then concentrates a large amount of blue flames in his hand. He summons 2 gigantic fire dragons and prepares for the final attack in the arena. The protagonist backs away and realizes the temperature is too high to block with his body. The instructor smiles wickedly and hopes the hooded young man corners the protagonist. The white-haired girl says it's time for the young man to reveal his demonic techniques to win. The protagonist is in the corner of the arena and realizes he has nowhere left to retreat now. With a wicked smile, the hooded young man shouts for the protagonist to perish once and for all. The 2 fire dragons then advance towards the young man with impressive speed. The young master says he has no choice and needs to use all his strength to win the fight. The girls get excited, and the chubby guy wonders what technique Boss Lincoln will use now. Making a sign with his hands, he prepares to use one of his secret immortal techniques. The young man then shouts the name of the technique, which is the chest press, and pushes the flames away. The opponent shouts that that's not an immortal technique, and the young man says it's from his fitness experience. The hooded young man praises him for catching the dragons but warns that his tricks are not over yet. Suddenly, the flames in the protagonist's hands explode and scatter throughout the combat arena. The flames then transform into dozens of blue fire lotus flowers surrounding the young man. The opponent challenges him to catch all the lotus flowers with this impressive attack density. The protagonist says that to win, he needs to use an immortal technique even stronger than the previous one. He then prepares to use another of his secret immortal techniques to defend himself. The young man uses the side-to-side jump and creates several afterimages of himself in the combat arena. The white-haired young man is shocked, thinking he learned his technique, but another corrects him immediately. With his quick movements, the protagonist manages to dodge all the fire lotus flowers. The opponent realizes he is using the airflow to blow the flames away and finds him annoying. He says the young man is now surrounded by fire energy and prepares for the next attack. He then uses the fire rock confinement prison and traps the protagonist in the arena. The others wonder how he used an earth technique if he has an affinity for fire and metal. The instructor boasts about the young man's elemental exchange technique, and the opponent gets annoyed with him. The hooded young man scoffs at the others for not knowing the principle of the world's 5 elements. The headmaster is impressed by the technique and tells the instructor to record everything with a projection stone. The instructor worries about the cost of the crystal, but the headmaster doesn't seem to care about the money. The young man says he now knows the principles of the world and that his techniques no longer have limits. With a battle cry, he prepares to attack the protagonist with his new powerful technique. Using the rock-piercing explosion, he launches a devastating attack toward the young master. The rock prison explodes and the pieces fly everywhere with impressive force. The chubby guy and the pink-haired girl shout the protagonist's name, worried about his safety. The red-haired instructor mourns the loss of his spirit stones and almost faints from the pain. The pink-haired girl prepares to save the protagonist, but the fox stops her from going. The young girl asks why she is stopping her from helping, and the fox tells her not to worry. With a confident smile, she says that such a small technique won't be a problem for her brother. The hooded young man smiles with satisfaction and says that a native of this world will never be a match for him. Suddenly, he feels a tremor in the arena and wonders what is happening to the ground. The ground starts to shake violently, and the entire arena begins to crack and crumble. The other students wonder if it's an earthquake and are frightened by the situation in the arena. The fox smiles wickedly and says that Brother Lingjun is finally going to show his true power. Suddenly, a golden light emanates from the protagonist, and he is revealed to be completely unharmed by the attack. With a powerful move, he uses the high-speed bench press and breaks the rock prison. The hooded young man is shocked by the scene and can't believe his attack was nullified. The fox says that compared to her brother's normal training, that is nothing, and the other girl agrees. The protagonist breathes a sigh of relief and says the weight is still too light for him at the moment. The opponent gets angry and says it's impossible for someone from this world to embarrass him. As the chosen one, he refuses to lose to a nobody and prepares for the next attack. Using the power of metal and earth, he imbues his sword with the weight of 10,000 pounds. He then launches the thundercut toward the protagonist with all his strength and power. The headmaster says the young man's anger has clouded his judgment, and the colorful instructor agrees. He forgot that his opponent is better at close quarters combat and prepares for the counterattack. The protagonist uses the body rotation exercise and spins to dodge the sword attack. With a quick move, he dodges the blade and the sword ends up stuck in the arena floor. The hooded young man is shocked to see that his mysterious black ruler was caught by the opponent. He watches the protagonist's fist approaching his face and can't react in time. The punch hits him square on and sends him flying with the force of the devastating blow. The opponent is stunned by the blow and doesn't understand how he was hit so easily. The protagonist appears in front of him and says he lost the fight and that it's all over now. The girls celebrate the young master's victory, and the fox shouts that she wants to have his babies. The instructor is furious with the defeat and calls the hooded young man useless for losing. The protagonist then turns and walks away, leaving the defeated opponent behind in the arena. With his eyes shadowed with anger, the young man shouts for the young master to stay where he is and not leave. Refusing to lose, he asks Master Dan to lend him his strength for one last play. Master Dan bellows that it's insanity to ask for his power, refusing to risk his own soul for a mere test. But the boy insists, saying that if he doesn't stand out now, his coming to this world will have been for nothing. His mind flashes back to when he was just an ordinary student, getting bullied for reading manga on the street. Filled with rage, he used to fantasize about having a protagonist's powers just to get back at everyone. Suddenly, a voice yells for him to watch out, and the young man looks over, completely confused. A truck barrels toward him at high speed, and he instantly realizes the driver won't be able to brake in time. The next thing he knows, he simply wakes up in the world of the manga, stunned to have been truly transported. Even after becoming a young master, he was still looked down on, and others would throw things at him. However, the boy swears he won't be worthless anymore, because now he has a mysterious ring. Just like in the stories, the ring contained the soul of a powerful cultivator named Master Dan. Before his demise, the man was a master of alchemy and helped the young man grow much stronger. With his new abilities, he got revenge on everyone who had humiliated him and put them in their place without mercy. Because of his incredible performance, he began to earn the respect and admiration of his family. The young man then decides he will become the clan leader to prove he was no longer a failure. Back in the present, he claims that with the protagonist's power, there's no way he can lose to some random nobody. With little choice, Master Dan sighs, admitting there's no dealing with the boy's stubbornness. He warns that the energy he has stored will only last for a short time and gives him a heads up. The spirit cries out in agony, telling the young man to use this power with great care and wisdom. Surrounded by a golden aura, the boy tells the master not to worry, declaring that victory is already his. Up in the observation tower, the instructor notes that the boy's aura feels off, and the headmaster agrees. Master Dan explains that despite his strength and life, he can only grant him the power of the golden core stage, but the boy smiles, saying the important thing is being able to use the 5-element flames. Combining the elements of metal and water, he gathers his power for a massive strike. With a battle cry, he unleashes a blast of blue energy straight at the protagonist. The attack scores a direct hit, completely engulfing him in the watery explosion. Now, the young master is trapped inside a sphere of water, looking like he's about to drown. The pink-haired girl is astonished, wondering how he suddenly recovered his strength and noticing his cultivation also jumped to the golden core stage. The fox girl shouts that it's impossible for a freshman to have that kind of power and accuses him of cheating, but the instructor cuts her off, telling her not to make accusations without proof. The hooded boy comments that even with all that strength, being submerged is sure to affect him. The other students start shouting that this is more than a fight, and that they're being pulled into the arena. Suddenly, even the academy's headmaster is nearly swept away by the battle's aftershock. He unleashes a wave of red energy to quell the fight and protect the crowd, leaving everyone jaw-dropped that he settled it all with a single move. One student remarks that he doesn't regret coming to an academy with such strong people, while another points out that the headmaster's fake legs are showing because he's flying so high. Meanwhile, the hooded boy tells himself he refuses to be ordinary anymore and that he must win no matter what. Out of nowhere, an intense light shines from within the water prison, on the verge of bursting. With a mighty punch, the young master shatters the aquatic prison and breaks free from the attack. The hooded boy is frozen by the sight, unable to process what just happened. The young master declares that he has more to fight for and gears up to strike back. He then channels his immortal technique, which appears to be nothing more than a simple, straight punch. The punch lands squarely on his opponent, sending the guy flying with overwhelming force. The hooded boy is floored by the power of the blow, struggling to believe its raw strength. This impact causes a massive explosion in the arena, kicking up an immense cloud of dust. The resulting shockwave destroys everything around, forcing the students to shield themselves as best they can. The others thank the headmaster, relieved that the blast wave barely missed them in the stands. The headmaster wonders aloud how a punch with no spiritual energy could be so powerful, utterly stunned. The smoke finally clears, revealing the arena floor, now completely torn apart by the battle. Sprawled on the ground, the hooded boy is in disbelief, and the master confirms his defeat. He refuses to accept his loss and tries to fight back, but the spirit tells him to stop wasting his effort. Just then, the protagonist approaches and apologizes, leaving his opponent even more baffled. Without hesitation, the young master strikes him with the boy's own weapon, who cries out in pain. The blow knocks him out cold, leaving him completely dazed on the arena floor. With a serious look, the protagonist reveals a secret. As it turns out, he's a transmigrator too. The instructor is furious, wondering what that scoundrel's true strength really is. The winner of the match is announced, and the young master celebrates as the crowd goes absolutely wild. The two girls rush onto the stage and hug him tightly, congratulating him on the victory. The boy gets a little flustered and admits the fight took a lot out of him at the end. The pink-haired girl tells him not to worry, assuring him she has plenty of food. She then pulls a giant piece of meat from a very strange place, catching everyone off guard. The fox girl yells at her to keep the food somewhere else, but the girl doesn't see what the big deal is. The young woman simply explains it's where she has the most space, and the fox girl nearly faints at the absurd scene. As he eats, the fox girl decides she's going to learn how to cook, so she can give the other girls some competition. The instructor bellows that the competition is over and orders them to get off the stage at once. Suddenly, inspiration strikes the protagonist while he's eating a giant piece of meat. With 2 pieces of meat in his hands, he dashes toward his fallen opponent on the ground. The young master offers the food and asks if the other guy is hungry too. The hooded boy glares at the piece of meat with disgust and rejects the offer. Angrily, he slaps the meat away and yells that he doesn't need the protagonist's pity. The hooded boy storms off, and the fox girl gets annoyed, but the young man stops her from doing anything. The pink-haired girl calls him generous, but the boy explains that they're from the same place. The 2 girls look confused, wonder what he meant by them being from the same place. The instructor, who despises him, scoffs at the boy, saying it's a disgrace for him to call himself the chosen one. A malicious glint in his eye, he thinks he needs to find another way to handle the protagonist. Out of nowhere, a hand appears and slaps a fine right onto the instructor's face. The old man from the disciplinary committee has arrived, fining him 100 spirit stones for spitting on the ground. The instructor is taken aback but quickly composes himself and agrees to pay the old man. He pays the fine with a resentful glare and vows to get revenge on the protagonist for this humiliation. Far away, the protagonist suddenly sneezes and wonders what just happened to him. The girl offers him some soup, but he brushes it off, saying someone must be thinking about him. Suddenly, the white-haired girl appears, calling the protagonist's name with a grave expression. Her gaze is cold and determined as she stares him down, saying nothing more. The white-haired instructor tries to intervene, warning that it's not her turn to fight. She admits the protagonist has some strength but completely ignores him to address the instructor. The girl says she was surprised he resolved the last match so easily, then insults his fallen opponent. Furious, she proclaims that since the others couldn't force him to use his true techniques, she'll do it herself. The protagonist gets flustered and stammers, confused as to why she's accusing him of being a demon. She asks the instructor if she can fight now. He agrees but says she must draw an opponent. With a wicked and confident grin, the white-haired instructor clearly has a plan in mind. The girl simply raises her sword and challenges all the remaining students to fight her at once. Her arrogance leaves the others speechless, but one of them admits that having a high cultivation level is incredible. The hooded boy says that she's the woman he's chosen, but the spirit reminds him that she's after the other guy. The spirit even rubs it in, mentioning he heard the other guy is also a transmigrator and tells him to stop dreaming. However, the boy just smiles, saying that having a transmigrator as a rival only confirms his status as the chosen one. Master Dan has lost all patience, wondering how he got stuck with this kid. With a look of pure resolve, the young man vows to overcome every obstacle and crush anyone in his way. The instructor asks the headmaster if this isn't against the rules, but he just replies that this is how young people should be. The headmaster asks if she is certain about her decision, and the girl confirms she doesn't want to waste any more time. With an excited shout, the headmaster urges her to show them what the youth of today are capable of. The instructor then yells in frustration and announces the start of the battle between the girl and the other students. The others, irritated by her attitude, prepare to attack with everything they've got. She scoffs at their techniques, calling them cheap tricks as she readies herself for battle. She then unleashes her 100 swords dance technique, and a blinding light emanates from her body. One of the students declares he'll break all laws with his strength as he lunges forward. He uses the purple thunder frenzy blade technique, but the girl seems utterly unimpressed. With a look of pure disdain, she asks if he truly wants to compete in raw power with her. Suddenly, his sword begins to fracture as an intense light radiates from the white-haired girl. His sword shatters into a million pieces, and the boy can only stare, stunned by her power. The resulting shockwave hits him head-on, sending him and the other students flying. He soars across the arena before crashing to the ground, completely defeated and unable to continue. The red-haired boy and the chubby one watch the scene, floored by the girl's sheer force. The man is knocked out on impact, his face a mask of pure pain and surprise as he hits the floor. The red-haired boy compliments the girl for taking down the young master with a single move. The chubby one is also in awe, saying her sword skills are just on another level. Just then, the headmaster's grandson yells at the chubby guy, demanding to know why he hasn't entered the arena yet. With a confident smirk, the red-haired boy declares he will never lose to anyone. Suddenly, a blade comes flying at the girl, but she dodges it with a swift movement. The boy attacks, but she evades the strike and immediately prepares her counter-attack. With a powerful kick, she lands a solid hit, sending him flying across the arena. The others try to take advantage of the opening and get ready to attack the girl from behind. Growing wary of the endless fighting, she decides to end it all with one final move. With a swift motion, she prepares to unleash an even more formidable sword technique. The others gasp when they see she can fly, wondering if she's already reached the golden core stage. The red-haired boy explains it's not a flight technique, but sword control, and the chubby one confirms he's read about it in an academy book. All at once, a brilliant light envelops the girl, leaving everyone staring in amazement. The other students complain that the light is censoring the view and call the girl shameless. She summons thousands of swords, a look of pure determination on her face as she prepares for the final assault. With a battle cry, she launches the volley of swords toward the other students with everything she has. Her opponents are struck down and collapse to the ground, defeated and with no energy left to fight. The pink-haired girl says she's amazing for beating everyone with one move, but the fox girl retorts that while she's strong, Brother Lingen is even stronger. Suddenly, one of the injured students staggers to his feet and glares at the girl with pure rage. He demands to know why she hurt him, and another suggests it was probably on purpose because he was eyeing her. Elsewhere, a masked man observes the scene and remarks that the young lady has grown stronger. The instructor announces the white-haired girl as the winner of the match, who seems lost in thought. She looks directly at the protagonist, bracing for the final showdown between them in the arena. With a serious gaze, she states it's time for them to settle their differences, once and for all. The protagonist asks if she needs a moment to rest, but the girl insists it's not necessary. She explains that defeating the others barely used any of her energy and gets into a fighting stance. The headmaster says they are the strongest contestants, and he's eager to see their fight, and the other official agrees. Suddenly, the colorful instructor launches several drones into the arena, preparing for something. The drones start filming the bodies of the unconscious students on the ground in a rather bizarre scene. The robots then begin pulling the students by their hair and dragging them out of the arena. The two finalists face each other, ready for the ultimate battle that will decide the grand champion. Nervously, the boy tries to de-escalate, saying this is all a huge misunderstanding. She shouts for him to be quiet and vows to force him to reveal his demonic identity. With an awkward smile, he says she's gravely mistaken, as he doesn't even have any cultivation. He asks why she despises him so much, and the girl just glares at him with pure hatred. The young woman screams that he has no idea what she's been through as her mind flashes back to her past. Seeing her fury intensify, he realizes he said something terribly wrong. Without a moment's hesitation, the girl launches a powerful sword attack at the protagonist. Sensing the immense energy, he knows he absolutely cannot block that strike head-on. The young master quickly uses his immortal high jump technique to evade the attack. The blow slams into the ground, causing a gigantic explosion and kicking up a massive cloud of dust. With a powerful leap, he soars into the sky, successfully escaping the girl's assault. He continues to ascend, bracing himself for whatever comes next in this final battle. The headmaster's grandson is stunned, while the chubby guy cheers for Boss Lingen's incredible power. Relieved, the protagonist thinks to himself that he finally managed to dodge that dangerous attack. Flying up on her sword, the girl says she'd like to see how he plans to dodge now, while in mid-air. She readies herself to use one of her most powerful techniques to end this fight once and for all. The girl then unleashes the heaven-splitting sword, sending a devastating attack crashing downward. The impact creates an explosion in the arena even larger than the one before. As the shockwave ripples outward, the girl calmly observes the result of her overwhelming attack. The instructor asks if the fight isn't getting too dangerous, but the headmaster just says it's getting interesting. The protagonist prepares to use an immortal technique, and the girl watches him with rapt attention. With his technique, he manages to catch the girl's giant sword with his bare hands. The pink-haired girl's jaw drops, but the fox girl says his strength is simply unimaginable. Enraged, the girl calls him a demonic cultivator and prepares to unleash her full power. Soaring through the heavens, the young woman readies the 10,000 swords technique. The girl then sends a relentless rain of swords hurtling down at the boy with all her might. The boy takes a deep breath and prepares to counter with another one of his immortal techniques. With a mighty inhale, he creates a powerful vortex of air around himself as a defense. Using his technique, he manages to catch every single sword, and the girl can't believe her eyes. The instructor who hates him finds the scene oddly familiar, remembering when his own swords were caught the same way. He compresses the captured swords into a ball of energy, just as the girl rushes into attack. The young man hurls the energy ball back at her, telling her she should just admit defeat. The energy ball slams into the ground, and the girl shrieks in fury at the boy's audacity. With hatred in her eyes, she vows she will never surrender to a demonic cultivator. The story flashes back 10 years to Eugene Peak, where a little girl is calling for her mother. At just 5 years old, little Baggy announces that she can already sense spiritual energy. The mother holds the little girl close, praising her for tapping into her energy at just 5 years old. She expresses her belief that her daughter will become the mighty's cultivator, ensuring a brighter future for their clan. With a warm smile, the woman encourages the child, who promises to give it her all. Suddenly, a shadowy figure emerges, warning the woman not to raise her daughter with such naive ideas. It's her father, complaining that the girl has barely started training and is already becoming arrogant. The mother gets irritated, arguing with her husband that he wasn't so impressive at that age either. Ignoring her husband, the woman announces she's going to make a delicious meal for her daughter's birthday. However, the little girl agrees with her father, stating she needs to become stronger to protect everyone. She then settles into a meditative pose, vowing to train hard to reach the next level quickly. Her father says he'll keep an eye on her progress and then turns to depart. Alone, the man seems deeply troubled by the exchange, walking away with a sorrowful expression. Crying, he covers his face, wondering if he was too harsh with his own daughter just now. His wife appears and startles him, revealing she heard everything thanks to his rather loud sobbing. She questions why he acts so tough if he can't bear to see his daughter's struggle, and he replies it's for his dignity. The woman then retorts, asking if his dignity involves crying in hidden corners, leaving him speechless. He gathers himself, explaining the cultivation world is a perilous place, so it's better for her to face hardship now than later. But with a grin, he admits his belief that his daughter will be the greatest prodigy of her generation. The mother watches the girl, deciding she should at least bring her a cloak so she doesn't catch a cold. The scene then transitions to a nighttime view, showcasing the moon in the mountains. Alone in the garden, the little girl remains in deep meditation, her blue aura glowing in the cold night. Embracing her, the mother compliments the young girl for using her power at only 5 years of age. She is certain her daughter will be the strongest cultivator, elevating their entire clan's future. With a reassuring smile, the woman cheers on the little one, who vows to try her very best. Out of nowhere, a dark figure appears, telling the woman not to fill her daughter's head with foolish notions. It's the girl's father, who grumbles that her training just started, yet she's already full of pride. The mother becomes annoyed and snaps back that he wasn't a prodigy at that age himself. The woman then dismisses him, saying she'll prepare a special feast for her daughter's birthday. But the young girl sides with her father, insisting she must get stronger to look after everyone. She sits to meditate again, promising to train diligently and advance to the next stage soon. Her dad states he'll continue to monitor her progress before turning to leave the area. Once by himself, the man looks deeply affected, walking away with a heart-heavy expression. In tears, he hides his face, questioning if he was overly strict with his own child moments before. His wife pops up and gives him a fright, telling him his noisy weeping gave him away. She asks why he's so rigid if he can't stand to see their daughter in pain, and he mutters it's for his pride. The woman then questions if his pride is just about weeping in secret, leaving him at a loss for words. He composes himself, remarking that the world of cultivation is harsh, so it's better she learns this now. But a smile breaks through as he admits he's certain his daughter will be the top genius of her era. The mother watches her daughter and decides she should at least grab a coat for her so she won't get sick. The scene shifts to a nighttime panorama, displaying the moon and the surrounding mountains. Alone in the yard, the girl continues her meditation, her blue aura a stark contrast to the chilly night air. Father, with a battle cry, he unleashes his most powerful technique, striking the fiend with all his might. Father embracing his wife, he assures her everything will be alright now that he's there to protect them. The little girl points out that her mother is losing a lot of red liquid, and her father sullenly nods. Mother, with her last ounce of strength, she apologizes for not being strong enough to shield them. She laments not being able to watch her daughter grow up as the girl cries uncontrollably. In the next moment, the mother's hand falls limp, and the girl screams in pure, soul-crushing despair. Weeping, the little girl tries to wake her mother, but she no longer responds. Her face etched with sorrow, the father reminds his daughter that today is her birthday. He then picks up the sword that belonged to his late wife, intending to pass it down. Father, with tears welling in his eyes, he tells her she must now use this weapon to protect herself. Back in the present, Alara declares she will never lose to a demonic cultivator like him. Eyes brimming with tears, she vows to use her mother's sword to eradicate every last fiend. Kale is puzzled. She knows conventional attacks are useless, so she must have a strategy. Alara, she reveals she's about to use a forbidden technique, having no other option against such a formidable foe. Gathering her energy, Alara prepares to use the same technique her father once did. Director Thorny, he recognizes the move, identifying it as Eugene Peak's ultimate attack against demonic cultivators. However, a grave expression clouds his face, as if he's worried about a hidden danger. Suddenly, Alara coughs up a large amount of red liquid, causing Cal to grow concerned. She ignores him, instead using energy chains to bind the young man, who is completely baffled. Alara then readies herself to unleash her final technique and finish Kale once and for all. With a powerful shout, she launches her blue energy attack directly at Kale with full force. The impact is direct, triggering a massive explosion that completely obliterates the arena floor. The pink-haired girl watches with concern, but Fina the fox tells her not to worry about it. Alara turns confidently, certain that her special move was more than enough to defeat him. However, amidst the swirling smoke, a silhouette appears, and Cal seems to be doing little more than coughing. Alara is utterly stunned, unable to believe what she's seeing. Stepping out of the smoke, Cal casually asks if she's finished, while Alara just stares, speechless. Alara, what kind of demonic cultivator are you to emerge without a single scratch? Kale, he simply replies, maybe there's a chance I'm not a fiend after all. Annoyed, Alara mutters that something must be wrong with her technique, while Kale complains about being ignored. She then wonders if the move is flawed because she hasn't yet reached the golden core stage. With a grim expression, she laments her own weakness, unable to vanquish the supposed fiend. Director Thorne observes the scene, looking concerned about the young woman's fragile mental state. Surrounded by a swirling blue aura, Alara screams that she must level up to destroy all fiends. Out of nowhere, Director Thorne appears behind her, placing a hand on her shoulder and startling her. He informs her that the competition is over and she no longer needs to fight, leaving the young woman confused. The other students wonder why the match was halted, assuming it was to prevent a disaster. Far away, a masked man smirks, thinking it's far too late to stop what's already in motion. With a flick of his wrist, he sends a tiny fragment of red energy hurtling toward the arena. The red object embeds itself in Alara's back without her noticing a thing. Instantly, the girl's eyes go blank as a sinister red aura begins to seep from her body. Director Thorne realizes something is terribly wrong, his face contorting into a mask of pure panic. A demonic shadow erupts from within Alara, terrifying everyone present. The shadow morphs into a giant fiend with glowing red eyes and lets out a blood-curdling roar. The director is enraged by this development and prepares to confront the newly appeared creature. He fumes that a demonic cultivator managed to infiltrate the academy right under his nose. Director Thorne instructors get the students to safety. "I'll handle this fiend." Alara comes to, wondering what happened while feeling an unsettling strangeness in her body. She looks up to see the giant creature poised to strike her with its massive, sharp claws. In a flash, a memory surfaces, the fiend that took her mother's life so long ago. The fiend strikes, sending her flying and leaving her completely defenseless on the ground. Panic sets in, she yearned to destroy fiends, but now her body refuses to move. Director Thorne then leaps in front of Alara, shielding her from the creature's attack with his own body. The masked man remarks that the chaos is still insufficient and orders his minions to advance. Tearing off his shirt, he reveals a muscular physique and prepares to join the fray. He lets out a wicked laugh as dozens of shadowy fiends materialize in the combat arena. The colorful instructor shouts in alarm, realizing there's more than one demonic cultivator present. The muscular instructor tells the other to evacuate the students while he holds off the creatures. Confidently, he boasts that with his human punching bag ability, the fiends are no match for him. With a defiant roar, the man activates his technique, ready to battle the horde of fiends. One student remarks on the instructor's bravery, while the director's grandson admits he's not entirely useless. Fido watches the man absorb blow after blow from the fiends, sensing that something bad is imminent. Just as before, he passes out on his feet, and Fina sighs that it's the only move he knows. Meanwhile, Director Thorne faces the giant fiend, declaring he won't allow a single student to be harmed. He throws a flaming punch, but the monster effortlessly blocks the strike. The director then channels a divine fire technique, preparing for a much more devastating assault. He unleashes a rain of fire that engulfs the smaller fiends, causing them all to shriek in agony. The other students are in awe, and the director's grandson notes that his grandfather is skilled with fire. However, the powerful technique leaves the director completely drained and seemingly out of strength. Alara forces herself to her feet, vowing to destroy the fiend soaring toward her. But the creature is incredibly fast, striking the young woman before she can even mount a defense. An expression of pure terror washes over Alara's face as she is unable to react to the attack. Suddenly, Cal appears before her, catching the blow and warning the beast not to mistreat young ladies. "Alara, what did you save me, and why did you attack the creature that came from me?" "Kale, was I not supposed to hit it? Is that fiend your pet or something?" "Alara," she explains, "I called you a fiend this whole time. Why would you still help me?" With a gentle smile, he says it's a person's heart that matters, a lesson his father taught him. He adds that he believes she is a good person and couldn't stand by and watch her get hurt. All at once, two fiends materialize behind Kale, and Alara screams for him to watch out. Cal spins around, ready to unleash one of his immortal techniques. With a swift motion, he executes a spinning attack that connects with both fiends. The impact is so immense that the monsters are completely disintegrated, turning to dust. Director Thorne is impressed by Kale's power, remarking that he is a very interesting young man. Energized, the director readies himself for battle again, determined to eliminate the fiends quickly. He launches another torrent of fire, but this time the giant fiend seems entirely unfazed. The creature rises once more, preparing to attack the already exhausted director. Alara also prepares to fight again, which surprises Kale. Suddenly, the giant fiend undergoes another transformation, assuming an even more nightmarish form. The monster strikes, and Kale uses his immortal technique to catch the blow with his bare hands. The creature raises its arm, preparing to crush them both with its full might. "Alara, he can't just stand here, I have to fight to protect everyone." She strikes the fiend's arm with her sword, attempting to slice through the creature. Her attack lands true, successfully piercing the monster's limb. A smile of relief crosses her face as she celebrates the successful hit. "Kale, see, you really are a good person, just like I thought." Without warning, the fiend begins to dissolve into a pool of red liquid on the floor. Alara is stunned by the sight, unable to comprehend what just happened. A searing pain then courses through her body as she realizes the monster's body is venomous. Kale notes that the creature's toxic mist is far more potent than the assassins from before. He is then struck by one of the fiend's tentacles, his body instantly seizing up from the poison. The fiend attacks with its giant arm, and Alara yells for Kale to be careful. Kale tries to move, but his body is completely paralyzed by the creature's venom. Alara then throws herself in front of him, taking the full force of the attack with her own body. She coughs up a large amount of red liquid, admitting she can't hold on for much longer. With her remaining strength, the young woman manages to shove Kale out of danger. The fiend's arm then connects with her, slamming her against the wall with incredible force. Kale is surprised he can move again, and Alara asks why the venom didn't affect him. Alara, maybe it's because I already have antibodies for this type of monster, she speculates, shocking Cal. He asks if she's faced a monster like this before, but she tells him now isn't the time. The young woman states that even without the venom, she stands no chance of defeating the demonic creature. Kale, a demonic cultivator, shouldn't look this strange, he comments. The arm Alara had severed regenerates, and the creature lets out an even more ferocious roar. The creature swells in size and power, preparing to attack them with renewed fury. The fiend hurls Kale aside and Alara braces herself for a fight. Kale urges her to use her strongest attack, but Alara seems to be struggling. Alara, my hand won't obey me, I can't even hold my sword properly. From a distance, the hooded young man watches with a malevolent grin, looking pleased with the outcome. He muses that it's the perfect time for him to make his grand entrance, save the day, and become the hero. A blue ore envelopes his hands as he prepares to engage the demonic creature. Hooded man, watch my performance, he tells Alara, who shoots him a look of utter disgust and calls him revolting. The fiend lets out a terrifying roar, readying to attack Alara with everything it has. The hooded young man counters with a fire technique, preparing to face the beast. With a swift gesture, he summons his giant sword and readies himself for battle. Hooded man, he charges forward, shouting, "It's time for you to go to the next world, fiend." His strike is a direct hit, severing the monster's arm and sending red liquid spraying everywhere. Kale, watch out for the venom from its arm, he warns. The hooded man scoffs, "Did you really think I didn't know about that?" Combining fire and wood techniques, he erects a barrier to shield himself from the toxic mist. He then conjures a dragon of yellow flames that lunges at the giant fiend. The attack connects, resulting in a fiery explosion that lights up the entire academy. Soaring through the air, he prepares for his finishing move, announcing it's his strongest technique. Using his giant sword, he unleashes the heaven-splitting technique, striking the fiend with full force. However, the creature manages to block the attack with its arm, stunning the hooded young man. Shocked, he wonders how the monster could possibly stop his ultimate attack, leaving him frozen. The creature retaliates, swatting him to the ground with a powerful and devastating blow. His spirit companion tells him to just pass out, but he insists he'll fight to the end like a chosen one. The fiend then attacks the hooded youth with its sword, defeating him decisively. Alara watches in disbelief, unable to process what just happened. She recognizes the technique the monster used as one from Eugene Peak, adding to her confusion. The fiend lets out a terrifying roar, and Cal yells at Alara to snap out of it. The fiend strikes again, but this time Cal dives in front to protect Alara. The monster's sword hits his back, and Cal remarks, "I guess this makes us even." Director Thorne is consumed by fury, declaring he won't forgive anyone who dares harm his students. A colossal fire aura erupts around him as he forms a flame avatar and prepares for battle. The avatar lays into the smaller fins, obliterating them with a volley of powerful fire punches. But the fiends swarm together, holding the avatar back and preventing it from reaching the larger monster. The masked man sneers that the fun isn't over, and he won't let the director ruin his plans. "Alara, how are you?" she asks. He replies that he can't move. She then recalls a lesson, realizing she just needs antibodies to counteract the venom. In a panic, she exclaims that her own blood contains the antibodies and prepares to cut herself to help him. Suddenly, the giant fiend lunges at them with incredible speed and power. Alara realizes they're out of time, her heart sinking with despair. She holds Cal tightly, bracing for the inevitable impact. In a swift, desperate move, she kisses him, shocking everyone who is watching. Cal is taken aback by the kiss, as Alara looks at him with a resolute expression. The hooded young man can't believe his eyes and promptly faints from a broken heart. Borosi, my theory was correct. They've been a secret item this whole time. Finad the fox is enraged, screaming for Alara to unhand her brother while clutching her chest in pain. The fiend attacks, but Cal, now cured, effortlessly dodges the blow and shields Alara. He then uses his immortal technique. A golden light emanates from his hand, healing the white-haired girl. With a devastating punch, Cal rushes forward, ready to defeat the creature for good. The impact hits dead on, creating a shockwave that completely annihilates the monster. The young man lets out a breath of relief, looking exhausted after putting all his power into the attack. He turns to Alara, telling her his strength is finally back to normal. Blushing, the young woman finds herself thinking that Cal looks surprisingly handsome in that moment. She turns to face the young man who holds her in his arms with a look of confidence. "Cal, why is your face so red? Are you badly hurt from the attack?" Director Thorne observes the scene, relieved that no students were seriously harmed. He prepares to fight again, vowing that the fiends will pay for their assault on the academy. He launches a rain of fire at the masked man, but the attack seems to have no effect. The masked man gets ready to fight, and the director calls him the culprit behind the entire incident. Director Thorne attacks with his giant fire hand, yelling for him to go to the next world. With his flame avatar, the director strikes the masked man with his full power. The blow causes a massive fire explosion that seems to have completely incinerated the enemy. The director is surprised, wondering what he sees in the midst of his attack's flames. He then realizes the masked man used a substitution dummy to escape the fatal blow. Frustrated, Director Thorne wonders what those demonic cultivators are truly planning. The scene then shifts to the Academy's library, a place of calm and silence. Abruptly, several red energy portals materialize and open within the library. From the portals emerge dozens of dark fiends preparing to wreak havoc. The masked man scoffs, "Those fools really thought I would launch a direct assault." He then summons dozens of red energy spiders, commanding them to enter the library. With a wicked grin, he says now he just needs to find what he came for. The spiders immediately begin their search, crawling over every book and shelf. They continue their meticulous hunt, scouring every corner of the library at high speed. Suddenly, one of the spiders begins to glow, indicating it has found what the man was seeking. The spider brings the book to the masked man, who watches with a satisfied gaze. He takes the book, complaining that the academy did a poor job of hiding such a vital item. The man is about to read the book when he is interrupted by a mysterious voice. Mysterious voice, the library is a restricted area. That will be a fine of 1,000 stones. The masked man turns to see Jian, the director's uncle, now working as the academy's janitor. Masked man, he mocks the old man. How did the once great master fall to being a simple janitor? Jian, that's none of your concern. Just pay the fine and clean up this mess. The masked man asks what will happen if he refuses, and the old janitor glares at him furiously. Jian then attacks with his broom, his speed catching the masked man completely by surprise. The blow lands squarely, sending him flying into a wall with devastating force. The impact is so powerful that the masked man crashes through the wall, causing a massive explosion. Director Thorne notices the explosion, realizing something terrible has happened at the library. He yells for the other instructors to protect the students and flies off to investigate. The director soars toward the library, and Fina watches him go with a curious glint in her eyes. Fina observes the unfolding chaos and remarks that it feels like the world is on the brink of turmoil. The masked man manages to dodge Jian's follow-up attack and prepares a counter. Masked man, he taunts the old man for destroying his own library in an attempt to protect it. Jian, for that, you'll have to pay an additional 10,000 stones in fines. The masked man then rips off his own arm and tosses it to the ground, shocking Jian. The arm instantly regenerates as the man remarks that the old janitor is as irrational as ever. Jian's face contorts with pure rage as he glares at his enemy. Jian, I don't need reason to deal with a demonic cultivator like you. Jian strikes with his broom, but the masked man easily blocks the attack. He then channels his demonic energy, creating a shadow monster to assault the old man. Jian's eye gleams as he deftly dodges the creature's attack with a swift movement. He swings his broom at the masked man, but his foe manages to catch the blow. Jian is then struck and thrown against a wall with incredible, overwhelming force. The resulting explosion is huge, and appears the masked man has won the fight. Surrounded by a dark aura, the masked man boasts that his power is far greater than Jian can imagine. He then reveals that he remembers a time when the old man nearly defeated him in the past. In a flashback, an injured masked man faces Jian, who is glowing with a brilliant golden aura. He explains he had to sacrifice his own family to obtain enough power to even stand against the old master. During that battle, Jian managed to steal half of his secret book, forcing him into a retreat. Back in the present, he declares he has finally acquired the power to reclaim his book. Jian glares at the masked man with such contempt that it renders him momentarily speechless. Jian, annoyed, he states, "You'll now have to pay another 20,000 stones for destroying the academy." The masked man charges forward, sneering that they can settle their debts in the next life. He lashes out with his claws, but the old man dodges the attack with surprising agility. Jian then prepares for counterattack, fixing his enemy with a serious gaze. With a fluid motion, he unsheathes a sword hidden within the handle of his broom. He then strikes the masked man, cutting him with the secret blade with all his might. The impact triggers an energy explosion that throws them both back and decimates the area. Jian lands gracefully, readying his sword for the next engagement. The masked man is stunned by the sight of the sword, appearing to recognize the weapon. Enveloped in a fiery aura, Jian prepares to unleash a powerful and secret technique. He calls out the name of his flaming sword, bracing for the climax of the battle. The masked man looks on in disbelief, staring at the old man's sword with recognition. Masked man, I remember destroying that sword in the past. It should be shattered. John, you're about to find out just how broken it is, right now. He charges toward the masked man, challenging him to test the might of his blade. Jian attacks, and a blinding beam of light strikes the enemy's face directly. The blow is so powerful it sends the masked man reeling backward, shattering his mask. The mask cracks apart, revealing the face of the man beneath, who is shocked by the old master's power. The masked man collapses to the ground defeated as Jian declares it's finally over. Suddenly, purple energy worms squirm out of the masked man's body. Jian is horrified by the sight, unable to believe what he is witnessing. The masked man's body regenerates, and Jian demands to know what kind of dark art he used. With a sinister aura, the man rises and glares at the old master with pure hatred. Masked man, you are not an easy opponent to deal with, he says, preparing his next move. Jian, what kind of demonic technique have you learned in all these years? The masked man states he has accomplished his mission and will now depart to master his new power. Enraged, Jian declares he won't let him escape and readies his sword. The masked man then threatens to destroy the entire academy, asking if Jian still wishes to pursue him. The old master is shocked by the blackmail, unsure how to stop his enemy without sacrificing the school. Furious, he prepares to fight anyway, shouting that he won't let the masked man leave. He uses his own red liquid to empower his sword, getting ready for a final, desperate attack. With a cry of rage, Jian swears he will never forgive the masked man for his actions. The masked man laughs, tauntingly asking if the old man will even live long enough to keep that promise. Jian lunges forward, attacking the masked man with his sword of fire and blood. Director Thorne arrives, yelling his uncle's name, deeply concerned about the situation. Jian, you reckless fool. You shouldn't have come to such a dangerous place. Angrily, he adds that if it weren't for the academy's safety, he would have already dealt with the masked man. The director asks who wounded him, and Jean leans on him for support, struggling to stay upright. Jean then reveals the masked man is a great fiend from millennia ago. He explains that the masked man is the legendary fiend responsible for taking thousands of lives. Director Thorne recalls that to defeat him, the Righteous Path Alliance dispatched over 30 elite warriors. In a flashback, the masked man faces an army of warriors assembled to stop him. Despite losing more than 20 of their own, they finally managed to vanquish the fiend. Giant, you should have realized his technique was no ordinary demonic magic. He then clarifies that the masked man's true ability was a forbidden art to control fiends. Shocked, the director says his intuition was right. The attackers were indeed fiends. Director Thorne prepares to pursue the masked man, but his uncle tells him to conserve his strength. Jan insists the director must alert the Alliance and request aid to protect the academy. With trembling hands, the old master clutches his sword, clearly suffering from his wounds. He admits he no longer has the strength to defend the academy and needs the help of others. Jan asks if the fiends in the arena can self-destruct, and the director confirms he has handled it. The director is about to leave when his uncle yells for him to wait a moment. As he flies off, the director says he has one last fiend to deal with, and his uncle reminds him to call a medic first. The other students discuss the sheer number of fiends, thanking the instructors for their help. Kale and Alara watch as the remaining fiends are held captive by energy chains. Alara calls out to Kale with an embarrassed expression, and he turns to face her. She thanks him for saving her, her face flushing red from the awkwardness of the situation. Annoyed with herself, she adds that she will still investigate whether he is a demonic cultivator or not. Kale is baffled by her mixed signals, not knowing what to make of her. Suddenly, Alara notices something glowing in the distance and her eyes widen in shock. Director Thorne launches a sphere of energy, and Alara screams for Kale to get out of the way. The young man once again dives in front of her, shielding her from the attack with his body. Alara, what did you save me again? He replies that he couldn't just let her get hurt. Kale finds himself face to face with the girl, both of them momentarily speechless. Sitting on the ground, he remarks that he doesn't seem to be injured, and Alara stares at him curiously. Angrily, she punches him on the arm, exclaiming that he deliberately made her worry. Fina and the pink-haired girl rush over, and Fina shoves Alara away from Kale. Director Thorne appears suddenly, announcing he needs to examine Kale's body. Fina calls him an old creep, but the director ignores her, his gaze fixed on the young man. His eyes glow as he peers inside Kale's body, and his expression turns to one of surprise. Director Thorne, just as I suspected, there is something wrong inside your body. He reveals that a demonic seed has been implanted in Kale's chest. Furious, he vows that he will not forgive the masked man for doing this to one of his students. Cal asks the director to let him go, noticing the strange look on the man's face. The director murmurs that this is very odd, and Cal asks if he is all right. Fina shoves the director away again, yelling for him to release her brother at once. She warns Cal to stay away from the old man, convinced that he has a preference for men. The director asks if Cal feels anything unusual in his body, and he says he doesn't. The director then wonders how the demonic seed, which should be fatal, has had no effect on him. Director Thorne, wait, he shouts, and Cal and Fina turn back confused. He exclaims that he forgot the young man has no spiritual root, which earns him a glare from Fina. The director explains that without spiritual energy to feed on, the demonic seed cannot grow inside him. He then flies off, and Kale wonders aloud if the director is wearing high heels. The other students watch the director, wondering what he is doing hovering in the sky. From above, he announces that despite the chaos, the admission test is officially over. Holding up a glowing ring, he declares that all students will be evaluated based on their performance. An intense light beams from the ring as he prepares to announce the final results. He explains that all the information has been transferred to each student's admission pass. Kale takes out his pass and sees that it is shining with a golden light. He reads it and discovers he has been assigned to the worst class and the worst dormitory in the academy. The director then orders all students to return to their dorms and prepare for the start of their classes. Fina hugs Kale, saying they should head to their dorm right away. He then asks if she was also assigned a room, and the girl looks at him with a curious smile. With a mischievous grin, she says she isn't a student and therefore doesn't need a room. She then declares that as his guardian, she will be sleeping with him in his room, leaving Cal stunned. He asks if she's sure about that, reminding her that he's supposed to have a roommate. Alara watches the exchange from a distance as Fina casually says she'll just kick the roommate out. The scene shifts to the academy dormitories, where students are settling in for the night. Cal and Fina arrive at their dorm, and he complains about how far it is from everything else. Fina is furious, grumbling that the director deliberately placed him in the worst part of the academy. Kale announces they've arrived, looking at the sign for dorm number 8. He opens the door, noting that the light is on, so his roommate must already be there. With a friendly smile, he introduces himself, saying he's also from dorm number 8. Suddenly, he's hit with a vision of Alara, and the sight shocks him. He slams the door shut, and Fina asks what's wrong with him. Embarrassed, he confirms that it is indeed dorm number 8, staring at the sign again. He tries to convince himself it must be an illusion brought on by the chaotic events in the arena. Mustering his courage, he opens the door again, determined to enter the room. He then sees Alara's back as she stands in the room, and he's shocked all over again. Kale wonders if he's trapped in some kind of illusion, while Fina remains completely baffled. Alara then opens the door from the inside, and Fina is stunned to see her there. "Fina, what are you doing in my dear brother's room?" she demands. The young woman presents her admission pass, proving that she is also assigned to that dorm. Fina asks if she's a man disguised as a woman, which Alara furiously denies. Cal pipes up that he can prove she's a girl, and Fina asks how. She explains that she switched dorms with his original roommate, who is now in her old room. Kale asks why she wants to live with him, and she replies it's for observation purposes. She explains that he was the first person her age to defeat her, and she wants to learn from him. Fina mentally corrects her, remembering Cal's true age is closer to 20,000 years. He points out that them living together might be problematic, especially with incidents like the one from earlier. Alara insists it was just an accident and promises to be more careful in the future. She then argues that if he can live with Fina, there should be no issue with her being there too. The young woman assures him she will only observe and will not cause him any trouble. Fina tells him to ignore her and invites Kale to share the bed with her. She says it's been a while since they slept together, and there's nowhere else for her to sleep anyway. Lying in bed, Cal feels a pair of eyes on him and sees Alara staring at him from the other bed. The room's candle flickers out and Alara begins to cry silently in the darkness. Kale wakes up and asks if the Academy's attackers were truly demonic cultivators. He notes that their techniques were different from those his father and the others in his sect used. Fida decides that since they've already appeared, there's no need to keep his secret any longer. She reveals that they are not ordinary demonic cultivators, but a far more sinister threat, heart demons. The scene shifts to a mountain stronghold where the members of the Alliance are meeting. They are shocked to learn that the masked man attacked the Academy and stole the Forbidden Book. One member expresses his disbelief that the Fiend is still alive after all this time. Another insists they must protect the Academy and not allow the Fiends to gain any ground. Director Thorne states that while the Fiend problem is manageable, there is a more severe issue. He reveals that heart demons materialized in front of the entire student body. He explains that these demons are born from the impurities of cultivators during their advancement. To maintain peace in the cultivation world, the existence of these demons has always been a closely guarded secret. Director Thorne wonders how much longer they can possibly keep this secret under wraps. One of the elders declares that they cannot allow the current world order to be shattered under any circumstances. A muscular man pledges his support, offering to help the Academy deal with the Fiend problem. He states that since their two academies are part of the Alliance, mutual aid is essential. The elder then issues his orders. 2 members will suppress the news, while the others will hunt the Fiend. The scene changes to a rival academy, where a man gazes into an energy sphere. He sneers that an academy so easily invaded does not deserve its #1 ranking. With a malicious smile, he vows that his academy will rise to become the strongest of all. Back in the dorm, Fina explains that heart demons are the greatest taboo in the world of cultivation. She continues her explanation, but Cal doesn't seem to be paying much attention. Suddenly, he drifts off to sleep, and Fina yells at him for dozing off during her explanation. She eventually gives up, musing that perhaps it's better for him not to know too much about the world's darkness. Fina then lies down beside him, and the two sleep together in the dorm room. Later that night, Alara rises from her bed, moving with an eerie, unnatural grace. Her eyes glowing a sinister red, she stares down at Kale, who is sleeping peacefully. The scene transitions to the next morning, as the sun rises and illuminates the academy. Kale awakens, realizing it's already morning and time to get up. He stretches and comments on how well he slept, and Alara beside him agrees. The young man turns his head and is shocked to see Alara stretching right next to him in his bed. The scene then flashes back to show what transpired during the night. The other students are woken by shouting as Alara loudly accuses Kale of impropriety. Fina then wakes up, accusing Alara of trying to seduce her dear brother. The young woman retorts that it was Fina who climbed into the bed and shoved her onto the floor in her sleep. Eavesdropping students whisper that the tournament winner is certainly making bold moves. Kale raises his hand, preparing to offer a logical explanation to them both. He suggests that perhaps Alara is a sleepwalker and wandered into his bed unconsciously. Blushing, she vehemently denies this, insisting she has no such habit, while Fina continues her accusations. Kale tells them to drop it, reminding them they need to get to class before they're late. Fina asks if he's really going to let her get away with it, but he insists that being on time is more important. Alara opens the door only to find a crowd of students who were listening in. Awkwardly, they claim they were just passing by and didn't hear a single word. They then scramble off to class, and Alara watches them with a suspicious eye. Fina and Cal also head to class, with Alara following closely behind. Cal asks if she is in a different class, and Fina tells her to just focus on observing him. The two girls start bickering again, and Cal pleads with him to stop fighting on the way. They finally arrive at his classroom, ready for their first day. Cal is surprised to see that both Alara and Fina have followed him inside. Boro then appears, asking why a champion like Kale is in this particular class. He explains that classes are ranked by performance, and they are in the lowest ranked class. Fina is outraged, complaining that Kale placed first in the admission test. Suddenly a voice booms, everybody quiet, and the students turn around, startled. The muscular instructor appears, demanding complete silence during his class. Kale is surprised to learn that this is their class professor. With a sinister glint in his eye, the instructor decides to use Kale to make an example of. He hurls a book at Boro for chatting during his lecture. The book flies through the air, but Kale snatches it just before it can hit his friend. He apologizes, explaining it was a reflex and that he meant no disrespect. The instructor is annoyed, while Boro thanks Kale for saving him. He then slams a pile of books on the desk, again demanding silence. He announces that this will be their first lesson at the academy as a golden light appears. The books then float into the air and distribute themselves to every student in the room. The instructor explains they must learn the Alliance's technique for controlling their energy. A student scoffs, saying that everyone there already knows how to do that. The instructor responds by throwing a book at him, stating their crude techniques are nothing compared to this one. Alara asks Kale why he didn't protect her, and he admits he reacted too slowly. The instructor clarifies that the Alliance's technique is the safest and most stable method for all students. He then glares at the students, preparing to give his ultimatum. He declares that anyone who fails to master the technique by the end of class will be expelled. Alara confidently states this is easy and that she'll have it down in a minute. Kale begins to panic, having no idea what to do since he lacks a spiritual root. Alara closes her eyes and prepares to demonstrate the technique. With a blue aura swirling around her, she chants the incantation and focuses her energy. A blue light gathers at her fingertips as she prepares to unleash the attack. She launches a beam of energy that strikes the wall, causing a small but potent explosion. The instructor is visibly impressed, shocked by the young woman's raw power. Fida mutters under her breath that Alara is just showing off for everyone. The instructor praises Alara, telling her she did an excellent job with the technique. He then reminds her to pay for the desk she broke, and she agrees, embarrassed. The instructor turns to Kale, stating it's impossible for him to learn the technique without a spiritual root. He prepares to expel the young man, but Alara notices something is off. Fida advises Kale not to push himself too hard, but he insists he just needs to feel the energy. Alara jots down notes, determined to uncover the secret behind his incredible strength. Kale suddenly shouts that he can feel the energy and concentrates for the attack. Instead of energy, however, he lets out a loud fart, shocking both Fina and Alara. Falling to his knees, he admits he couldn't feel anything. Alara asks if this is his usual training method. He grabs her arm, pleading with her to teach him how to sense the spiritual energy in the air. She explains he needs to imagine his body as an empty bottle and feel the water of energy flowing into it. He concentrates, visualizing himself as a bottle as the ambient energy pours in. With his eyes closed, he announces he's beginning to feel something building inside him. Suddenly, he lets out a loud burp, and Alara suggests he try a different approach. Boro celebrates his own success while Alara wonders how Kale became so powerful. The instructor tells them not to celebrate just yet and prepares for the next training exercise. He materializes a ball of pure energy, leaving the other students to wonder where it came from. The instructor tosses the ball to a student, ordering him to catch it with both hands. The young man braces himself to catch the energy ball hurtling toward him. However, the ball is incredibly heavy, and he is immediately flattened by its weight. The instructor explains that the more energy one pours into the ball, the lighter it becomes. Annoyed, the young man gets up and prepares to infuse his own energy into the sphere. The instructor clarifies that the ball only responds their specific technique, otherwise it grows heavier. Boro mentions that the energy ball game is quite famous and that they play it often. The instructor then hurls dozens of energy balls at the students. The youths prepare to catch the spheres and begin the training exercise. Alara catches the ball with ease, while Boro struggles with its immense weight. The instructor reiterates that the ball cannot be lifted by physical strength alone. Kale steels himself, determined not to be expelled from the academy. With a powerful roar, he channels all his physical might and manages to lift the energy ball. The scene shifts to Jian, the director's uncle, who is calmly combing his hair. He senses an approaching presence and remarks that they arrived quite quickly. A colossal flying ship appears in the sky, speeding toward the academy. Director Valerius of the rival academy emerges, announcing his grand arrival. The rival director then notices an energy ball careening toward his ship. Jan appears, surrounded by a golden aura, and fixes the man with a serious gaze. He complains that Director Valerius didn't announce his visit, so no welcome ceremony was prepared. The man claims he came to offer aid, having heard the academy was in trouble. Jan sarcastically calls him generous for bringing so many warriors in a warship. With a knowing smirk, Jan says he is well aware of his rival's true intentions. Suddenly, they hear a scream as an energy ball flies directly at the ship. The ball strikes its target, causing an explosion that rocks the entire vessel. The warriors ready themselves for battle as their director shouts that they are under attack. The explosion causes panic among the warriors, who cry out their director's name. Gale panics, realizing it's all over now that the energy ball has exploded. The instructor bellows at him, asking if he has any idea how much a new classroom costs. Jane hears the commotion and wonders if Kale is causing trouble yet again. Director Thorne asks his rival if he is alright, and the man replies that he is unharmed. In the next instant, another energy ball hits him square in the chest, and he coughs up red liquid. Jane calmly points out the explosion was caused by an energy ball, not a fiend. Director Valerius realizes the energy ball struck him and becomes enraged by the situation. For revenge, he proposes an energy ball challenge between the two academies. Jade accepts the challenge and preparations for the tournament begin. The scene changes, with Jean explaining the situation to the academy's students. Jin then announces that the 5 chosen representatives for the tournament will be from this class. Bora raises his hand, saying he has a question about the selection of participants. He says he understands the others being chosen, but he himself is too weak to compete. With a sad expression, he admits his strength is the lowest among all the academy's students. Kale is reminded of a similar chubby boy he once knew. He encourages Boro, telling him that if he puts in the effort, he can achieve a great result. The blue-haired young man Jace scoffs that if effort was all it took, Kale would have a spiritual root by now. Jin reveals that Boro has the ability to predict the future, a skill that will be invaluable. Kale then raises his hand, saying he also has a question for the old master. He sheepishly asks how the energy ball competition actually works. Alara explains that it is a 5-on-5 game where the objective is to score points. She clarifies that while they cannot directly attack opponents, they can use their energy for defense. Kale says he won't be of much use, and Jin reminds him this whole situation is his fault. He announces the competition will take place in 3 days and that they must train intensely. Jin emphasizes that the tournament is crucial for the Academy's reputation. He then reveals that the prize for the victors will be a prestigious golden medallion from the Academy. The director's grandson explains the medallion is the highest honor and grants double the cultivation resources. Cal's eyes light up. With double the resources, he might finally have a chance to cultivate. Energized, he rallies the others to start training for the upcoming tournament. Jace dismisses him, saying he has no interest in training with someone who can't even use energy. The director's grandson claims the entire academy belongs to him, so resources are irrelevant. Alara tells Kale to ignore them and to continue with his training. She explains that the energy ball can absorb power from multiple people simultaneously. She then challenges him to try and take the energy ball from her hand, using only his physical strength. Kale lunges for the ball, but Alara dodges him with a nimble movement. With a sly smile, she thinks to herself that she will uncover the secret of his strength one way or another. Kale declares he'll use even greater speed, which surprises her. He manages to grab hold of her, proclaiming he won't let her escape so easily this time. In the struggle, Cal accidentally grabs a sensitive area, and Alara freezes in shock. Blushing furiously, she accuses him of being a pervert, and the young man panics. Jace accuses him of doing it intentionally while Boro senses the bloom of romance. Kale asks if she's okay and offers to help alleviate her pain. She finds herself thinking it would be better if the others weren't around to interrupt. From a distance, Fina and the pink-haired girl watch the scene, seething with jealousy. Kale insists they need to resume their training, and Alara agrees. She then employs her sword technique, preparing for the next phase of their training. She constructs a goal out of swords and tells him to use it as a target to practice his aim. Kale notes the ball isn't as heavy now, and that he just needs to work on his precision. He then hurls the ball with all his might, aiming for the center of the sword goal. The ball flies true but suddenly ricochets off an invisible barrier, heading right back at him. The instructor's voice bellows from afar, informing Kale he's just lost this month's resources. Alara asks if he heard a shout, but Kale claims he didn't hear a thing. Director Valerius remarks that the academy is quite brazen and glares at the building with contempt. His student points out they have now challenged him twice, which only fuels the director's rage. He insists a mere energy ball cannot harm him, though his student offers assistance. He instead tells the student to prepare for the tournament, and the young man acknowledges the order. Director Valerius muses that they have both wagered the future of their academies on this tournament. The student then vows to lead his academy to a decisive victory against the opposing team. The rival director praises his dedication, and the student promises not to disappoint his master. He then takes out a purple object, stating he will do whatever is necessary to win the competition. The scene jumps forward 3 days, with all the students gathered for the tournament. Jan asks for a round of applause for Director Valerius as he approaches. The rival director appears, his face covered in bandages, clearly still feeling the effects of the explosion. The students whisper about his appearance until the instructor silences them. Director Valerius begins his address, greeting all the students of the academy. He then launches into a long and tedious speech about the tournament, which quickly bores Kale. The students begin to yawn, and the rival director becomes irritated by their lack of attention. Annoyed, he declares that the academy's newcomers are getting worse each year, and that he will demonstrate his superior methods. He complains about the state of the training field, and Jian retorts that they prioritize resources for students. He then announces he will construct a proper training field for their competition himself. Slamming his fist on the ground, he uses an earth technique to create the arena. The students feel the ground tremble and wonder if it's an earthquake or the director's power. Suddenly, a colossal structure begins to rise from the earth, leaving the students in awe. Cal and Alara watch dumbfounded as the structure takes shape. It reveals itself to be a giant coliseum, and the students are impressed by this display of power. Alara wonders about the director's cultivation level, while Cal is simply mesmerized. The directors order the players to prepare while the other students take their seats. A court resembling a basketball court forms in the center of the coliseum, and the teams prepare for the game. Jane encourages his students, reminding them of the importance of winning this competition. He then introduces the players from his academy as Kale gets ready for action. "Jace, I'm going to be the star of this competition," he says, glaring at Kale. He then vows to defeat Kale, even if he is a transmigrator. Jane then introduces the team from the rival academy as they step onto the court. The rival team is composed of 5 strong, muscular warriors with confident expressions. The rival captain declares they will demonstrate the true power of their academy. He then turns to his master, promising to fulfill his dream of victory. A member of the rival team boasts about their intense training and preparedness. He then mocks the opposing team, calling them a bunch of worthless trash. Indignant, Boro retorts that they are not trash and gets ready to fight. The rival team member calls him weak, and Boro becomes furious at the taunt. The rival captain tells them to settle their disputes on the court, not with words. Cal observes that they are arrogant but seem to be a well-trained and cohesive unit. The director's grandson agrees, confirming they are the elite of the rival academy and have never known defeat. He reveals the rival team is made up of specialized talents with vast experience. The director's grandson complains to Boro for not sharing this information earlier, and Boro defends himself. Jace tells everyone not to worry, as he is here to lead them to victory. With his weapon in hand, he faces the rival team, vowing to defeat them no matter what. He swears on his weapon that he will win the competition and bring glory to the academy. The instructor calmly takes the weapon from his hand, and Jace asks what he's doing. He explains that weapons are forbidden in the tournament, a rule that shocks the young man. The rival team erupts in laughter, mocking him for not even knowing the basic rules. Director Valerius sarcastically praises Jean for his choice of players. He adds that he only hopes Jean will be gracious enough to admit defeat at the end. Jean tells him not to underestimate the boys, expressing his full confidence in their victory. He looks at his students, reassuring them that he trusts them, which is why they were chosen. The instructor then removes Kale's training weights, which seems to annoy Jean. He explains the game will last for 1 hour, and the team with the most points wins. The instructor raises the energy ball, preparing to start the match. The players from the rival team eye their opponents with unwavering confidence. Cal's team readies themselves, meeting their rivals' gazes with determination. The instructor throws the ball into the air, officially starting the match between the two academies. Kale moves to get the ball but is shoved aside by one of his own teammates. He is shocked to see it was Jace who pushed him. "Jace, you don't have any energy. The first play belongs to me." The rival captain snags the ball, and Jace immediately tries to stop him. The captain passes the ball to a teammate, who gets ready to receive it. Boro attempts to intercept the pass, but the rival player is far too quick for him. The rival player smirks at him, asking if he really thinks he can stop him. Boro is stunned by his opponent's speed and is unable to react in time. The player scores the first point, putting their team on the board with a score of 1-0. The directors watch the game, and Valerius looks pleased with his team's performance. The rival team celebrates, with one member commenting on how weak their opponents are. Alara warns her team that their opponents are strong and they cannot afford to underestimate them. She takes the ball, declaring she will go on the offensive while the others provide cover. The rival captain boasts that his energy is the highest and no one will get past him. As Alara advances, he appears before her, ready to steal the ball. The other rival players close in, surrounding her and preparing to attack. Jace rushes forward, intending to use his energy technique to help. He creates an ice barrier, freezing the players who are about to attack Alara. The instructor immediately calls a fool, reminding him that he cannot attack other players. The instructor states that on the court, only justice prevails, which irritates Jace. He then announces that despite the foul, the ball is still live, and Alara continues her advance. She leaps in the air to score, but one of the rival players rises to challenge her. The player takes a bite of meat and prepares to block Alara's shot. The young woman throws the ball with all her might, causing an explosion of energy. Suddenly, the player transforms into a giant lizard and catches the ball with his bare hands. Alara is stunned by the transformation and is unable to react. The lizard then passes the ball to the rival captain, who catches it mid-air. He praises the lizard's skill and prepares for a counter-attack with the energy ball. He charges forward with the ball, ready to score another point for his team. The director's grandson and Boro try to stop him, but he easily throws them aside with his energy. The rival captain scores another point, bringing the score to 2-0. A female player on the rival team praises their captain, saying his move was incredible. He then turns to the opposing players, looking at them with utter contempt. Kale and Jace glare back at him with serious expressions. He points at them, declaring he won't allow them to score even a single point. Finna becomes furious, and the pink-haired girl has to restrain her from attacking the player. Jace raises his hand, saying he has a question for the instructor. He asks how the rival player is allowed to transform if items are prohibited in the game. The player takes another bite of meat and smirks at them mockingly. The instructor rules that food does not count as an item and is therefore not against the rules. The pink-haired girl wishes she had brought snacks, while Finna complains about the referee's bias. Director Valerius remarks that the chosen students are nothing special, but Jean disagrees. Another player scores, and the score becomes 3-0 in favor of the rival team. The score quickly climbs to 6-0, and Cal's team appears to be on the verge of a blowout. The giant lizard scores again, and the score is now a daunting 10-0. The rival captain praises the lizard as the instructor announces the end of the first half. Cal's team gathers in the locker room, looking exhausted and utterly demoralized. Director Valerius laughs, boasting that his team is even trying their hardest. The scene returns to the locker room, where Cal's team is in disarray. Alara complains that the others are not cooperating and are actively hindering their efforts. The director's grandson says his teammates are too weak and that he can't play with them. Boro considers giving up, while the rival team watches their opponents melt down with smug smiles. The female player notes that their opponents are arguing, making their victory all but certain. The rival captain says the academy is overrated and his backup plan won't even be necessary. "Kale, I have a suggestion," he says, and the others turn to him curious. He proposes that since they can't function as a team, they should focus on individual matchups. He explains that each of them should mark a specific rival player and try to score whenever an opportunity arises. The other players consider his proposal and seem to agree with the new strategy. The instructor announces the start of the second half, and the players return to the court. A rival player mocks them, but Boro retorts that Kale has a plan to win. The pink-haired girl yells for Kale to wait, and he turns to her, confused. She then tosses a large amount of food to him, telling him to hold it all. Kale begins to juggle the food with surprising dexterity, which amazes everyone. Alara and Boro praise his impressive food juggling skills. A rival player sneers that they are about to show Kale's team the meaning of true despair. The instructor announces that the teams are ready and the second half is about to begin. He throws the ball into the air, and the match resumes with renewed intensity. The rival team's players surge forward, aiming to get the ball and score more points. One of the players leaps high and snatches the ball from the air with an impressive move. He glares at his opponents, asking if they've already given up on the match. He then announces the start of his show, and the director's grandson moves to stop him. With a determined shout, the director's grandson prepares to use an earth technique. He creates a sand barrier, but the rival player passes through it with ease. Director Valerius taunts Jian, asking if his grandson is really a member of his family. The player then passes the ball to a female teammate who prepares to attack. Alara materializes swords of energy and prepares to block her opponent's move. The swords fly forward and converge, forming an energy barrier in front of the player. The player is struck by the swords and falls to the ground, defeated by Alara's attack. The masked player then takes possession of the ball, and Alara faces him with determination. Jace jumps into the fray, declaring it's finally his turn to shine. He attacks the masked player with a wave of blue energy, but his opponent dodges it. The rival captain realizes their strategy. They're trying to force one-on-one confrontations. With a sinister smile, he says this tactic will not work against his well-coordinated team. He then charges toward Boro, stating that their team's weakness is glaringly obvious. Boro uses his precognition technique, calmly stating he knew he would do that. The rival captain retorts that even if he can see the future, he lacks the strength to change it. Boro replies that while he can't stop him, he knows someone who can. Kale suddenly appears and smashes the energy ball with a powerful punch. The rival captain is stunned by the young man's raw power and is unable to react. Kale then hoists Boro onto his back, and the captain orders his team to stop them. Boro then uses his ability to guide Kale through the court, effortlessly dodging every attack. The rival captain is shocked, unable to believe he predicted their every move. He then declares they will never get past the giant lizard. The lizard prepares to attack, eating another piece of meat to enhance its strength. Kale apologizes to Boro in advance and braces him for what's about to happen. With a mighty yell, he prepares to use his friend as a projectile weapon. He then throws Boro with all his might toward the rival team's goal. The lizard tries to intercept Boro, but he is too heavy and it cannot stop his momentum. Boro crashes through the goal, scoring the first point for his team. The instructor confirms the point, and the score is now 1-10. The rival captain dismisses it as a single lucky point and orders his team to attack. Jace mocks them, and the rival female player points out that he wasn't the one who scored. The rival captain advances with the ball, preparing to score another point. He hurls the ball with incredible force toward Kale's team's goal. Kale and Boro try to block it, but the ball easily speeds past them. Kale's team then begins to use the same Boro ball tactic, scoring multiple points. The score climbs to 2-10, and the rival captain is stunned by their comeback. Kale and Boro continue to score, and the scoreboard now reads 6-10. They use the same tactic one more time, and the score is now tied at 10-10. Director Valerius is furious, screaming at his team not to embarrass him. The rival captain is determined not to let his master lose the bet. He takes out the purple object, realizing he must use its power to win the match. With a swift motion, he swallows the object and prepares for his transformation. A purple aura envelops him as his body begins to contort and expand. With a malevolent grin, he says he can finally feel the power he has always craved. A cloud of purple smoke conceals him, and the female player on his team watches with admiration. Giant asks his rival if he didn't sense the demonic aura, and he denies it. Director Valerius boasts that with them present, not even the masked man would dare show his face. The rival captain realizes he can't absorb all the power at once and decides to use only a fraction of it. The female player asks if their captain is okay, and he confirms he is, stating the match must go on. He declares that time is running out and they cannot afford to give the other team another chance. Kale and Boro celebrate their comeback, which makes Jace jealous. The instructor announces that the match will continue and prepares for the tip-off. He throws the ball into the air, and Jace leaps to catch it. Boro is surprised to see him get the ball, and Jace charges forward with it. He claims the other team is exhausted, and that he will score the winning point. The rival captain moves to block him, but Jace advances fearlessly. He states the other team is at their limit and scoring will be easy. Boro explains that while the rival team may be weaker individually, their teamwork is exceptional. The director's grandson notes that everyone on their team is stronger than their opponents, except for Kale. Jace continues his advance, saying everyone has seen how incredible he is in this match. With a purple aura swirling around him, the rival captain prepares to use a technique. He employs his earth technique, creating a massive stone wall in front of Jace. Giant is shocked, and his rival claims he must have learned the technique under pressure. He then wonders if it was truly a sudden breakthrough, or if he had mastered the technique all along. The stone wall sends Jace flying backward, and the rival captain seizes the ball. The female player praises him, and he tells everyone to get ready as the clock is winding down. Kale and Boro move to block the rival captain. He then activates his stone armor, declaring that no one will be able to stop him now. Kale and Boro combine their strength to try and stop the rival captain. He is shocked that the two of them managed to halt his advance so easily. He then uses his earth technique, preparing for a powerful and devastating attack. A stone wall erupts from the ground, throwing Kale and Boro away from him. He climbs the stone wall, proclaiming that no one can stop him now. Suddenly, he finds himself unable to move and is shocked by his predicament. He tries to advance, but the stone wall seems to be holding him back. Boro realizes he can attack the stone pillars and prepares to make his move. He then begins to scale the stone wall in an attempt to stop the rival captain. The rival captain becomes desperate, trying to break free from the stone wall by any means. He realizes he's about to score an own goal if he doesn't do something to stop it. He decides he must go further and draws more power from the purple object he swallowed. The stone wall then begins to grow and morph into something even larger. Boro complains about the increasing weight, and Kale is shocked by the wall's transformation. The stone wall transforms into a giant golem, leaving Kale utterly surprised. Director Valerius notes that the amount of energy he used is far too great for a newcomer. Kale then leaps onto the golem's hand, preparing to attack the rival captain. The rival captain tells Kale to deal with the golem and leaves him behind. Alara and the director's grandson jump onto the golem's other hand to provide support. They then prepare to confront the rival captain with all their combined strength. The director's grandson uses his platform swords to leap onto the giant golem's hand. He then faces the rival captain with a challenging glare, ready for a fight. Kale and Boro also prepare to attack and assist their teammates. With a determined look, Kale prepares to unleash his full strength in the attack. He then lands a powerful punch on the golem, causing an explosion of yellow energy. The blow is so immense that the golem begins to crumble, its fragments flying everywhere. The rival captain is furious that they are constantly thwarting his efforts. Kale replies it's because he is determined to win the competition, no matter the cost. The rival captain declares that victory will be his and prepares for his final assault. The two then exchange blows, and a powerful shockwave ripples through the entire arena. Faida is shocked to see someone who can match her brother in a contest of pure strength. Kale then lands a kick on the rival captain, sending him flying backward. The female player tells him not to overexert himself, and that they will steal the ball from him. Kale then uses his flying technique, soaring into the sky with the energy ball. The rival captain is determined not to let his master be embarrassed. The purple object on his chest begins to glow ominously as a dark aura envelops him. The female player is shocked by this transformation, not understanding what is happening. Jin recognizes the aura, identifying it as the energy of a heart demon. The rival captain then begins to transform into a giant, crimson fiend. The female player asks what has happened to him, and he replies that he must win the match. With a guttural roar, he screams that he must win the match, no matter what. He then leaps in the air, preparing to attack Kale with his newfound power. Boro yells for Kale to be careful as the fiend charges forward to attack. The fiend lands a powerful punch on Kale, slamming him to the ground with immense force. The impact creates a shockwave that kicks up a cloud of dust, leaving everyone stunned. Kale crashes to the ground injured, and Alara screams his name. The fiend seizes the energy ball, declaring that no one can stop him now. He then charges toward the goal, preparing to score the winning point for his team. Kale struggles to his feet, motivated by his desperate need for the cultivation resources. He then jumps in front of the goal, preparing to block the fiend's attack. The fiend sneers that he will not be able to stop the final point of the match. With a malevolent glare, he faces Kale and prepares for his final attack. He then throws the ball with all his might, and Kale tries to catch it with his hands. The impact causes an energy explosion that hurls Kale backward with tremendous force. Boro and Alara are horrified by the scene and cry out his name. Kale realizes he can't attack him, so he resolves to use his body to block the ball. With a furious roar, the fiend tries to force the ball into the goal. Kale resists, holding the ball with his bare hands as red liquid pours from his mouth. Faida is enraged, shouting that he is flagrantly breaking the rules of the game. Kale then spits the red liquid in the fiend's face, a move that shocks even Fina. With a defiant grin, Kale declares that the match is far from over. He then manages to wrench the ball from the fiend's grasp and prepares for a counterattack. The fiend is stunned by the young man's strength, unable to believe what just happened. He wonders if Kale's energy is somehow greater than his, even in his transformed state. With a final desperate cry, Kale prepares to throw the ball with all his remaining strength. He then hurls the ball, which flies like a comet toward the rival team's goal. The ball moves so fast that the other players don't even see it zip past them. The impact causes an energy explosion that completely annihilates the goal and the wall behind it. The other students are in disbelief, saying not even a high-level cultivator could achieve such a feat. The ball then detonates, destroying everything in its path with unimaginable force. The instructor announces the point, declaring the final score is now 11-10. Kale's team celebrates their hard-won victory as the fiend glares at the young man with pure hatred. Defeated, he murmurs that he can't believe he lost in front of his beloved master. Kale asks if they won, and Alara tells him not to worry about that right now. Jain notes that his rival student has been completely consumed by the heart demon. Suddenly, Director Valerius calls up a large amount of red liquid, which concerns Jian. He wonders how his student could have fallen so far, despite his strict training regimen. Jain suggests that perhaps it was precisely because he was too strict. The fiend wonders if he has disappointed his master and seems heartbroken by the loss. He then looks at his hands, seemingly unable to accept the final result of the match. With a cry of rage, the fiend clenches his fists and prepares to attack. He then unleashes a powerful red aura, forcibly advancing to the golden core stage. An intense light radiates from his chest as he prepares to attack with his full power. Jain states that he is beyond saving, and Director Valerius coughs up more red liquid. He then asks the muscular instructor to contain the fiend while he tends to the director. The instructor rips off his shirt and prepares to face the demonic creature. He charges toward the fiend, announcing he will demonstrate the power of his sacred body. With a grin, he says he will show him the true strength of his human punching bag physique. The fiend glares at the instructor with its glowing red eyes and prepares for combat. He lands a powerful punch on the instructor, but the man doesn't even flinch. The instructor is thrown to the ground but gets up as if nothing happened. The fiend insists the match isn't over and that he must continue to fight. Alara remarks that she never expected the rival academy to harbor a fiend. She declares she must stay to protect Kale and looks at him with determination. The other girls agree that they will also stay and help protect the young man. Fina gets annoyed with the pink-haired girl, telling her not to call her by that nickname. The fiend glares at them, asking if they truly intend to stand in the way of his victory. With a roar of fury, he warns that all who oppose him will meet a tragic end. He then creates chains of golden energy and launches them toward the youths. The chains descend from the sky, preparing to bind all of them at once. The chains then ensnare all the other players, leaving them immobilized on the ground. The fiend announces he has dealt with the intruders and turns his hateful gaze on Kale. He then grabs the young man by the collar, lifting him into the air with his demonic strength. The fiend declares they will continue the match until he achieves victory. He glares at Kale with his red eyes, appearing to be completely consumed by madness. The female player from the rival team pleads with him to stop, reminding him it was only one match. With tears in her eyes, she says they will have other opportunities to win in the future. Enraged, he throws her aside, blaming his loss on his useless teammates. The masked player catches her as the fiend screams her name in anger and frustration. He then announces that now that everyone else is gone, he will challenge Kale. The fiend glares at him, declaring they will now have a one-on-one match to settle the score. The other players beg him not to frighten them, insisting that he is being controlled. The female player then asks the others to help him return to his senses. They turn to the fiend, unsure of how to help him calm down. Furious, the fiend screams at them all to be quiet and glares at them with hatred. He then turns back to Kale, challenging him to continue the match. The fiend calls him despicable, and Kale glares back with determination. Alara tells him not to think he can do whatever he wants just because he won. She then rallies the others, saying they must unite to stop the fiend. The spirit asks if Jace is not going to help, and he replies that he will not take the risk. Jace states he will only become the chosen one when Kale is no longer in the picture. Alara then creates swords of energy and attacks both Kale and the fiend. The fiend calls her reckless and prepares for the attack she has launched at him. The swords strike the stone wall, and the fiend prepares for a counter-attack. Boro warns Alara to watch out for an attack from the ground, and she prepares. Suddenly, stone spikes erupt from the ground, but Alara manages to dodge them. She successfully evades all the spikes and readies herself for the fiend's next move. The young woman then complains that things would have been easier if the instructor hadn't taken her swords. She then turns and sees the muscular instructor lying on the ground shirtless. Annoyed, she grabs him and demands he return her swords, but he claims he doesn't have them. The fiend becomes enraged and prepares to attack the director's grandson and the girl. He then attacks with his stone golem, sending them flying with a powerful blow. Fina warns him not to think he can do whatever he wants with the fiend's power. She then uses her demonic sound technique, creating a pink aura around the fiend. The fiend is affected by the technique and becomes confused and disoriented. Fina tells him he still has a chance to return to normal if he fights back against the demon's influence. He struggles against the control, and Fina urges him to remember what is truly important. The fiend then seems to remember something and glares at Fina with his red eyes. He screams that victory is the most important thing and attacks Fina and the others with renewed fury. With his hands clasped together, he prepares to use his earth technique to attack everyone. He then creates massive stone walls, trapping all the other players. The walls close in, forming a stone prison and leaving only the two of them outside. Alara tries to break the wall with her swords, but is unsuccessful. Fina notes the wall is too high and that there is no way to climb out. The fiend declares that now that everyone else is gone, they can fight one-on-one. He screams that they will continue the match until he finally defeats Kale. The young man then picks up the energy ball and faces the fiend with a serious expression. Suddenly, he feels an excruciating pain in his body and collapses to his knees. The fiend laughs, saying he overestimated Kale's strength and that he is weak. He tells the young man to watch as he claims the final victory for his team. The fiend tries to take the ball, but Kale holds onto it with all his remaining strength. He insists that he also needs to win the match and glares at the fiend with determination. With a malevolent smile, the fiend says he will now show him his true power. He then uses his technique to create a cage of stone spikes around Kale. The fiend taunts him, asking how he will secure victory now. He then prepares to throw the ball and score the winning point for his team. Kale states that the match between the academies is already over and they no longer need to fight. The fiend is confused, not understanding what the young man is trying to say. He insists this is now a duel between the two of them, and that is the most important part. Kale replies that if the official match is over, then everything is fine and he faces the fiend. Kale states that this means he can finally fight with his full strength. He then shatters the cage of stone spikes with his brute force and frees himself. The fiend is shocked, unable to believe he managed to break free from the cage. He then attacks Kale with a flurry of punches, but his opponent dodges them. The fiend's punch then strikes the stone wall, destroying it with its force. He laughs, saying he thought Cal had some special ability but was mistaken. Cal apologizes and the fiend is confused by his strange behavior. He then says he doesn't want to waste any more time and will end the fight at once. With a determined look, he faces the fiend and prepares for his final attack. He then uses his immortal technique, charging toward the fiend at incredible speed. The fiend also charges forward, and the two prepare for a clash of fists. Kale lands a powerful punch on the fiend, sending him flying backward with force. The impact causes an energy explosion that completely destroys the arena floor. The stone cage then dissolves, and the other players are finally freed. The fiend crashes to the ground, defeated, wondering how this could have happened. Kale then punches the ground, shattering it with his impressive strength. The other students are in awe, wondering what kind of technique he used. One of the students remarks on his strength, and another comments that he is in the same class as him. Kale breathes heavily, looking utterly exhausted after using all his strength. He then falls backward, and Alara catches him before he hits the ground. With his body trembling, Kale says he is incredibly hungry after the fight. Alara remarks that if he acted any differently, he wouldn't be himself. The pink-haired girl then appears, saying she has food to help him recover. She then begins to feed Kale as Alara watches the scene. She comments that she never expected Director Valerius's disciple to be possessed by a fiend. The muscular instructor appears, boasting that with him around, they don't need to worry about fins. He then tells the fiend not to get cocky just because he managed to land a surprise attack on him. The instructor then uses his strength to break free from the rocks that were pinning him down. The fiend attacks him with a punch, but the instructor easily catches the blow. He explains that when he is prepared, his human punching bag body is much stronger. The fiend then begins to glow, and the instructor is surprised by what he sees. Suddenly, the instructor starts to glow with a colorful aura, which shocks the fiend. He then lands a powerful punch on the fiend, sending him flying with his strength. The blow is so strong that the fiend is slammed against the wall, spitting up a large amount of red liquid. The purple object then ejects from his body and tries to flee the scene. Fina appears and snatches the object out of the air with a swift movement. She then says that, as she suspected, the fiend was intentionally summoned by someone. With a determined look, she clenches her fist around the object, preparing to destroy it. The object is then incinerated in a burst of fire, and Fina looks satisfied. The female player from the rival team rushes toward the fiend, but her teammate holds her back. The female player holds him in her arms, relieved that he has finally woken up from the trance. Director Valerius then appears and the female player cries out his name in surprise. She begs him to help her teammate, who is badly injured from the transformation. Director Valerius then looks down at his fallen student with an expression of deep disappointment. Angrily, he asks why his student resorted to such measures, and a young man looks at him sadly. He says he didn't want to lose or disappoint his master under any circumstances. Director Valerius reminds him that there is no turning back after taking such a step. The young man says he knows, but he couldn't bear to see his master lose the bet. Director Valerius states there is a reason their academy has always been inferior to the other. He then orders the other players to take the girl away, and they reluctantly obey. Using his earth technique, he creates a stone sword and prepares to strike. He says that out of respect for their relationship, he will give the young man a swift end. With the sword in hand, he asks who gave him the object and prepares to attack. The young man then reveals that a masked man gave him the power pill. Giant confirms it was definitely the fiend, and his rival looks ashamed. Director Valerius says that in the next life, he will teach his student the proper way. With tears in his eyes, he prepares to end his disciple's suffering. The other players scream for him to stop, but he doesn't seem to hear them. Suddenly, Cal appears, catching the sword with his bare hands and saving the young man. Director Valerius is stunned, unable to believe it was Kale who stopped him. With a determined look, Kale prepares to face the rival director. Director Valerius wonders what kind of monster the academy has created to possess such strength. Kale apologizes, saying he got carried away, intervened without thinking. Director Valerius asks why he stopped him, especially since the fiend wanted to harm him. The young man replies that his opponent only wanted to win, not to hurt anyone with his power. With a smile, he says it's not right to condemn someone just for being competitive. Director Valerius then punches the ground, preparing to concede his defeat. He announces that he has lost completely and will honor the promise he made. He then declares that from this day forward, his academy will become a branch of the other. The other students are shocked and then erupt in cheers, celebrating the news. Director Valerius says they can take care of his disciple and prepares to depart. The female player asks why he is leaving, and her teammate tells her she doesn't understand. He explains that the director is actually protecting his disciple, and the rival director sheds a silent tear. Jane places a hand on his shoulder, and the rival director turns, confused by the gesture. He says he doesn't need pity and that Jane can do as he pleases. Annoyed, Jane kicks him, clarifying he wasn't trying to console him at all. He then thinks to himself that now he has another unstable element the academy to worry about. He states that since the rival academy is now a branch, they must follow his orders. With a serious expression, he prepares to issue his first command as the general director. He then orders the entire